back, everybody. Let's go ahead with our agenda here and start with Central Services. Mark?
Yeah, first we've got Parks Advisory Board applications. Some familiar names. Mackenzie, are you going to present?
I am. So we received 2 Parks Advisory Board applications, one from Bernie Gaines and one from Ginger Kenyon. Bernie is a current Truman Book Park host. And
Extraordinary.
and then Ginger is a current county employee. So I just wasn't sure what you guys...
Is that Ginger?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's that Ginger. So I wasn't sure your guys' thoughts on that, if you'd want me to interview them both, or...
What positions do we have? One?
I want to say we just have the one opening.
I love Ginger, but Bernie Gaines is extraordinary, and he understands our park system in a way that nobody else would after how many years of living there and operating them and everything.
Well, I do think that since Commissioner Charleston was new, maybe we should interview both of them.
Okay.
That would be my preference.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know either one.
Great. So you can set those up, Mackenzie?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Career Fair.
So we will be having our first ever Mason County Career Fair, March 13th of this year.
First ever?
First ever, we've hosted ourselves. This is super exciting.
Why are you doing it on Nicole's birthday?
We're going to celebrate by hiring people. Hello. So, one down, pass it around. So we're still looking for some departments to participate. It's from 9 to 2 up at Public Works. We've got a lot of departments participating, but any others that have not signed up yet, we're still looking for them to come. And we have tables. We got matching tablecloths for every department, and so we'd like for them to come and explain what they do. We can set people up in NeoGov in our hiring system, like right then and there. We'll have computers and everything ready for people, so we can get them in the system and they can just sign up for notification alerts when we have openings of things that match their interests, and walk them just through that process. That's been really helpful for everybody. So we're really excited. Please spread the word. Oh, you have to tape that on your door.
I do.
Put it up your office, or I don't know, you gotta sell it for me. But if any of the commissioners would like to attend.
I'm making a magnet for my car.
Yes, I love that. We should do that. And Winter Perez made these. She is our amazing graphic designer these days. I tell you what, she's made our employer branding pretty amazing. So, but yeah, if we'd like to invite if any of the commissioners would like to attend at any time during that.
I would love to be there, but I'll be on the hill.
You'll be on the hill, okay.
Well, did we get some of our divisions that are traditionally hard to find employees, like corrections and?
I don't think I've heard from them. I don't think I've heard from, there's a couple. But we're still working to figure out, what works best for them, because, obviously we have to coordinate coverage. You'll be there? Okay, sweet.
I figured there was a guy in the room that might have some say in that.
We know people. So yeah, but I think we definitely gonna have utilities and waste will be there. The other side of the house will be there. I don't think parks will be available, but I'm sure we can figure out how to sell that, so.
I'll be there.
Kelly's gonna be there. It's gonna be awesome. We're excited.
Very cool. And are we putting this in the newspaper too, so?
I don't think we're planning on it, but we can, if you
I think
would
it's
like
not-
us to.
I don't think it's a good idea.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, because it's a better opportunity to get local.
Right.
Yeah, we're blasting on social media, and honestly, Kitsap County, while a competitor has actually they host one every year, and they let us come up last year and pick their brains, and so they were actually really helpful and very
They're not a
nice.
bad neighbor.
They're not a bad neighbor, so, yeah, we're excited. But yeah, I will get the newspaper done then.
Cool.
That's it for me.
Thanks, Mary. Jen, financial reports.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I have the January 2025 financial report, beginning with revenue in the general fund. We have received so far in January is pretty boring, by the way, since not a lot has happened, and it's not a huge, a lot of property taxes haven't come in yet, that sort of thing, so anyway, we have received, through January of this year, $2,441,000 in the general fund compared to last year, $2,457,000. We're at 6% of our budget this year received compared to 6% last year. And just stop me along the way if you have any questions. In the treasurer's office, for revenue, we have received $1,414,000 so far this year compared to $1,455,000 last year, and we're at 5% of our budget this year compared to, and also 5% last year. Expenditures in the general fund, we have expended $4,326,000 this year compared to $3,865,000 last year. We're at 8% of our budget expended this year in the general fund compared to 7% last year. Benchmark's 8.33%. On the next page, the special fund 6-year recap, there was an error on the county road property tax. We had the budgeted number in there, and so we didn't actually receive over $10 million through January. We've received $43,000. So anyway, that'll be corrected and go on the website.
I was pretty excited about that, actually. Wow.
Yeah. Sweet. So yeah, there's not a whole lot of really exciting activity through January on any of these special revenues. The county sales tax, we have received $786,000 in January, and that is $47,000 more this year than January last year. So so that's exciting. We have budgeted $9.5 million, and we're projected at this point to receive $9.9 million if everything comes in exactly like it did last year, and then including January of this year, or the difference of the $47,000. On the 6-year financial recap, our cash amount at this point, at the end of January, is $25,024,000. We have all of our reserves listed above, which are pretty much the same as last year, except for the operating reserve went up a little bit. That's 25% of our previous year's actual expenditures in the general fund. Again, our revenue, we're at 6% of our budget through January, and that's very comparable to the previous 5 years, and then our expenditures are 8% of our budget, which again is pretty comparable to the previous 5 years. In the special fund cash balances through January, we have $63,255,000, and that's looking good in most funds compared to the previous 5 years. The amount in ARPA, I just wanted to point out, we have $632,000, and we don't really have that much left to expend. We have less than $100,000 to expend at the end of the year. That amount that's in there is interest earned, so that will go back into the general fund when we're done with ARPA. The motor pool summary, we're only at 5.01% of our budget this year, so not a lot has happened in motor pool through January. Special revenue funds, we have received $3,218,000 this year compared to $6,579,000 last year. We're at 6% of our budget this year compared to 11% last year, and that's probably just a timing thing, I would I would think, grants coming in, that sort of thing. The expenditures, we have expended in the special funds $3,772,000 compared to last year, $2,950,000, and we're at 5% of our budget this year compared to 4% last year. County debt at the end of January is $16,860,000. So any questions on any of this?
Good job.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna stop my share.
I want to have a discussion about this for a minute. You and I discussed it a little bit this morning. Now, 1 month is nothing to build anything off of, but we still have to watch the numbers, and there's some concerning things to keep in mind. If you look at the 6-year financial recap, where it breaks down our cash on hand, you're gonna see that for the first time in 6 years, we went backwards over $1 million, almost $1,100,000. That's the first time in almost 6 years that that's happened. It's probably even longer than that we went backwards. And that's one of the things I wanted to point out. Now, there are some things to keep in mind. It could be money in, money out. Now, it's apparently we expended about $500,000 more than we had planned to at this time, using the same benchmark as last year. But even taking that away, if you did the $1,100,000 over 12 years, that's $13 million backwards. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Over 12 months.
Over 12 months, that's $13 million, $116,000 backwards. Let's hope that doesn't happen. That's worst case scenario that we've ever dreamed of. But with that in mind, I just wanted you to know that's where some of the concerns that I have are and where they're coming from. I just wanted to share that with you. But for the most part, you can't tell anything. It's 1 month. It doesn't mean anything. Money in, money out. We could have spent more like we did, $494,000. That's what it came down to. February is going to be a short month. We'll see what kind of the difference it shows at that point. But at the end of February, if it's $2 million, we need to start to be very, very concerned. Not a little concerned, very, because that would mean that we're extrapolating out $1 million backwards a month. After 3, then that's a pattern. So I think that's why we agreed to look at it at the end of March. I just wanted to put that out there so see what I'm worried about and what my concerns are.
I disagree that when you say it doesn't matter. We have to watch it every month.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
It does matter.
I just mean that we've learned that just because there's one bad month doesn't mean they all will be, but it could be. And so it scares me. So I just wanted to point it out because that's what I've been seeing and that's what I was worried about that I've been talking about for the last 6 to 8 months. But I won't know for sure until 2 or 3 months. Then,
Well, the revenue forecast comes out April 17th, I think.
But as for our budget, we're on par with what we're supposed to be. We're pretty close to where we're supposed to be for expenditures, and it's still going that far backwards. Like I said, we're $494,000 more in expenditure than we had been historically in the past. Over. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it definitely is a concern and a change from years past. But we do have a large amount of cash, and so we did need to start spending some of that. So yeah, I don't know.
I agree, but we'll see what the numbers look like.
Okay.
We can't afford to even go backwards $7 million this year. It'll take up everything we have for unbudgeted monies that we have, other than our reserves, and if we start dipping past that, we have to change our reserve policy. We have to look at raising taxes. There's a lot to look at with that. So that's what we have to work with. After that, we have to start changing how everything works.
And our 2 biggest sources of revenue in the general fund, sales tax and property tax. So property taxes, you'll see the first chunk in April, and then October. Sales tax is positive. I mean, we're seeing increases in sales tax revenue compared to previous years, so that's a good sign. And then also it looks like our real estate excise tax, which is what we use for capital type expenditures, appears to be
A little bit on the rise. That was good. 2 years ago it went down. We were
Yeah.
really getting nervous, and it's still not up to where it had been, but it's going
way
up.
better than 2 years ago.
Yeah,
But
a lot better.
And I just heard that this month is very, very active again, so
Oh, good.
very good. It makes you worried.
Yeah.
We count on that money for a lot of things, don't we?
We do.
We do. Serve the people.
Okay, thank you, that's all that I had.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. So the next topic is something that the board asked me to bring back to you. We received a couple of requests from Mason County Housing Authority, and one of the requests was to provide support services in a room, and so some clerical support. You authorized that, so we will be continuing to provide that as we have in the past. The other request was they asked for $85,000 per year for a 5-year contract over a 5-year period, $85,000 each year, with an increase in there of, I can't remember, I think it was about 5%.
It's cost of living.
Yeah, cost of living increase. And so at the time we originally discussed it, we were looking for alternative sources of revenue to pay for this. Melissa Casey in Public Health went out and looked around and actually inquired with some of our grantor agencies to say, hey, could we actually utilize these funds to pay for this? And the answer was no. So wanted to bring this back to you because this is would have to go directly against general fund if we chose to support the Mason County Housing Authority with the payment of $85,000 for their executive director.
I don't know that I'm comfortable yet going to go forward in this. I know that we do have the RFP that's going out, I believe, next month for funds through Dave's department.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm hoping that they would apply for that also, but I don't know.
My recollection was we agreed to do 2 years at 85,000 guaranteed, and then we discuss it after 2 years.
Would review it.
When I read the thing, that's one of the reasons why I called Mark when I was on vacation, is because I read it and it said, the other said, 5 years, 85,000 cost of living. I'm like, the only thing that I remember that we ended up, in order to keep control of this, because number one, it is not our organization. It is not. We have no authority. We have not. The only thing we do is appoint onto that organization, but we have no responsibilities for it. The risk was that if they collapsed, that we would have to take on those properties, but we went on the board and helped them to move away 2 of those, and the only one that's left is not dilapidated and stuff like that. So then we backed ourselves away from all that. But what we agreed to in that room was 1 year out of the general fund, 2nd year hopefully would be out of some other fund that it would put in, but it was 2 years, if that's what we're going to do. I'm not pushing for that. I'm telling you that's where I was in the other, but I want to remind everybody, this is not the county's. We do not own it, even though it's called Mason County Housing Authority. It is not ours. They are their own entity.
That's like Mason County garbage, right? That's
Especially because there's
not ours
going to be an
either.
ask for money here shortly, and so I wanted
Right.
you to know that I'm
Yeah.
going to be asking.
Well, for me, I was comfortable with going for the 85,000 when I thought that it was coming, that we could use grants for it. Having it come out of our general fund, I don't know. I hesitate to do that right now.
Yeah, I thought we'd signed up for 2 years, that was it, and then after that, we would evaluate, but Randy remembers 1 year, and then the 2nd year would be followed on by some other source.
Just to go through the grant cycle, yes, but it was 2 years guaranteed. If it didn't go through the grant cycle, you're not off, because that is what we said. If it didn't go through the grant cycle, that it was still for the 2 years, but we'd expect them to go through the process. But that doesn't mean we have to do it at all. it was just so far different from what I had remembered that when I saw it on the boat, it was like, what happened? And then he says, well, no, that's not what we remembered either, and so.
Yeah, I think that's why we removed it.
Now, there's a way of splitting the baby. We could agree to do 1 year, but that means 1 year still out of our general fund for an organization that is not ours. That's the thing I want to make real clear.
One of the other concerns you might want to think about is some of our other entities around Mason County that are looking for support for administration like that. You know, that you may have other entities then come forward and ask for funds also, so.
Right. Other nonprofits would, and I wouldn't,
We get to hear you talk twice there, Mark.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel, I'd rather think about it for a little bit longer and see if there's other sources that they could use. Because I don't wanna set them above our other nonprofits either. And I wanna see them succeed, but I also don't want to make it known that we'll pay for their ED.
Commissioner, you know I have a rule that I live by, so I'm gonna ask you specifically, are you asking for more time to maybe bring this back in 2 weeks in order to look at other options? Is that what I'm hearing? If that is, you know how I feel about that. I automatically support when a commissioner wants the time to do the things they need to do.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable going forward yet. I mean, but it just takes two, so. if
That's
you
why,
guys-
no, that's why I'm asking you. Are you asking to bring this back in a couple of weeks for discussion?
Yeah, let's do.
Then I will support that.
I'm okay with that, you know,
Yeah, I
need to
think
look
they,
into it more.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're critical, but so are all of our other nonprofits, so. Let's see what we can do.
So I'm just trying to think of where I could go, where I could look over the next couple of weeks and bring something back to
Actually, it'd be
you,
up to
so.
Commissioner Trask, because she's the one that has the question. So whatever questions she needs answered, she brings it back to us and we discuss it in a couple of weeks. If she's not in favor, then that becomes the discussion.
Okay, so I will put this on our calendar, Mackenzie, for a couple of weeks to come back. Thank you for your help. All right.
Sorry.
Oh, you're okay.
Our next topic is kind of an exciting topic, animal control.
I like this topic.
Yeah, so this has been a hot topic around. In fact, Randy and I have talked with did they call it JAZCOM? Is that how okay. So Joint Animal Services, which is up out of the Olympia area. Kind of a regional service that's provided up there to the cities in the county. Randy reached out to them and they came and talked to us, and how about I let you talk about it, because you actually did it.
Okay, let's, if you don't mind, let's go back just a little bit, because remember that we used to have 2 animal control officers. It was underneath the sheriff's department. Then at one point, they changed one to something else, and then when the budget constraints, they moved that person over to evidence, so we lost animal control in Mason County. They put it underneath the deputies. With it being underneath the deputies, they've done the best they can what they're doing, but currently it's taken 1.5 deputies of time a year to do this. So no matter what we do, I want you to bear in mind, if we decide to go this route, we're also releasing 1.5 deputy time back to the people again. We went out for different things. We talked to the Humane Society with different options that they may have without those facilities and stuff. It makes it hard. We tried to work with the city and had different discussions because they actually have a facility, but it's a very small facility, and we would have to take over theirs, and there just wasn't there wasn't an openness for trying to work together as well as we should have. They wanted to think about it more. So it looked like it would cost us as much as between $350,000 to $500,000 if we tried to do that, of which I don't think we have money. These folks here have provided us first with a big giant package, but we were in discussions, we were able to get them to whittle a few things down and give us different options. The first option is $50,000, which is basically the idea that we would just have a housing facility. That's better than what we have. It will not fix anything, and you'll still use 1.5 deputies. The only difference is currently now, if there's a danger animal, they got no place to put them. They either have to put them down or nothing, or leave them, and quite often they leave them. And there's no other options for doing certain investigations because the deputies are already lined up doing a bunch of other things. The second option is basically animal control with utilizing their facilities, being able to take animals there on a 5-day-a-week basis instead of 7 days a week. And it's between 8 and 5 p.m. But at least it brings back animal control. It gives us a facility to put them to, a place to have danger dogs, and they actually document and everything else, which didn't happen in the old sheriff administration. This gives us the ability to have a basic animal control, much more than we ever had now, at $175,000. Then the next one is a more expanded one. Now, we're tight for money. It'd be nice to be able to pay for everything, but even that one is much cheaper than if we'd have tried to take it on ourselves. My recommendation to the board is that we consider the middle option with a caveat. In talking to the sheriff, there's something they have a concern of, and I agree with them. the idea that there are these horrible cases that come up that may happen on a Saturday or Sunday. I'd love to be able, with your permission, to have a further discussion about adding another 5,000 under the contract to maybe have 5 to 10 emergency things only through the sheriff's office on a specific emergency call on a weekend outside the parameters. But to do that, we probably have to offer them up a little bit of money. With that, that's still, if we ended up doing it at 180, the cost savings to us for trying to do it ourselves is huge. The expense is big because we're hurting for money, but at the same time, we're using deputies. We literally can give the people back 1.5 deputies. That's huge. They're still gonna have to answer calls. They still have to go there, and they're gonna have to learn to work together so we can create some codes and stuff to give them powers and authorities to do things. But they've already done this all before. This is nothing new. We're not inventing the wheel. They know how to do it, so they'll work with the sheriff, who's been very, very open to this. And what, am I quoting it right, when you would be okay with the middle one, but you have a hope that we could provide some type of emergency response for a big call outside of the regular norm if something happened?
Yes, Commissioner, that was, after sitting down and looking over it, and I took it to my staff and asked them, and they said the big concern was those exceptional cases that happen on the weekend or after hours. If we have a few of those throughout the year, is there a provision that they could still respond in some capacity to help the county? So that was my only concern, but it would be very, very helpful for us in freeing up our deputies to do other things, because being on the MACOM board, Kelly knows, and I think you heard it, there were 1,200 animal control calls last year. My average deputy runs about 700. We just as a county had over 900 animal control calls, and some of those are very short, some of those are very long.
And understand, this doesn't mean it fixes everything, because it doesn't, but right now we fix nothing. Because they can go out there, they have no place to take them, there's only so much they can do. They can document, but that takes a lot more time too, to have a deputy document. It has to get really bad before they can actually jump in and do the stuff, where these can be the people on the ground that are making the stuff happen, and be able to see, first and foremost, I got a phone call for something on the big animal issue we're facing with right now in the courts, and they asked me my idea of it, and what my issue was, because I worked on that from the very beginning, but I ran into brick wall after brick wall after brick wall. One of the reasons why it's a brick wall is you have deputies out there doing all these other things. This is a person that can start to whittle away at the things to find probable cause, to find the ability to get them on the land, where that deputy has to leave again. They got another call somewhere else. We could actually start to have protection, but it's not gonna fix everything. This is not, one of the things I get phone calls, people, because their dog is pooping on somebody else's dog poop. This ain't gonna fix that. That's not what our animal control's gonna do. It's gonna handle the bad cases, but if you look at the list, which is extensive, that's still pretty darn good. So I'm hoping that you would consider, I would not vote against the full-fledged one. I think we don't have the money to do it, I'll be honest with you. But I'm hoping that you will at least support the middle one and give me the ability to go and have a discussion with them, asking to add on a little bit of emergency service if we had to. But understand, even if we agree to do this, it has to go back before their board, and it has to go back before a county board, of which they're all, yes.
And we also have some internal work to do.
Yeah.
Too. So, right, these positions used to be housed under the corrections portion of the sheriff's office union contract. So we will have to have discussions with that if you guys want us to continue to move forward and negotiating this contract. We'll have to talk with the union and make sure that they're comfortable with us going down this road. And then, is the city interested at all?
That's the one thing to keep in mind. The city alone could not pull this off if they had to, because the cost is too extensive. If we end up doing this, if I was the city, which I've been talking to them once, I'd try to piggyback on it, try to utilize part of it, because it'd be so much cheaper for them. We already have 2 deputies or 2 animal control officers here, for them to bring in a third or even utilize part of it. The problem is, it'd be nice if we worked together as a team from the beginning to get a big cost savings, but sometimes it just doesn't work that way. And this is the situation that we have in front of us. I think it would be wise if we took advantage of it. But if we did, we're looking at April before implementation.
Well, I know that we did bring this up at our city-county meeting, the mayor's on there, and we did talk about this and let them know that you were working on this, so appreciate that. Sheriff, can I ask you, how do you feel about this?
Well, you know, it used to be under the sheriff's office, and we are the largest portion of the county budget. but it's not a requirement by law for us, and we have over 120 requirements by law that we have to do. So if we get cut, if you were to give it back to me and we get cut, it'll be the first thing that's cut. And I'm not saying that as a political weapon, I'm just saying that's not something we're mandated by law to do, so it will get cut. So I think it would benefit the community better, the county, if it was at a different office or somewhere else. And I know we've discussed it, other options, so I think this is a great idea. I hope it'll work. It's going to be a big benefit for our deputies. And this is going to free up some of the people that I want to put on the SET team to actually go after the crimes that we're seeing patterns in our community.
And I want to remind, in discussing your concern on the union contracts, history, again, is a beautiful thing. There was a point where the bailiffs and the security used to be underneath the sheriff and under the contract, but when we contracted it out, it separated out on its own. It didn't have to go through all the other stuff to do it. It's a contract, and we're allowed to contract out for county services. But we can give as much consideration to that as we choose to. So if we choose to go through a whole process to do it, we can, but it's still ours. History's already proven that, and it is what it is.
The only difference I see between stage 2 and stage 3 is called out here. They're adding 2 days. I mean, at $175,000 or $180,000, that's $36,000 a day, Monday through Friday. It's an additional $70,000 on top of that to add Saturday and Sunday. Well, that's $35,000 a day. So it's pretty much the same thing. Do we want to cover 5 days or 7 days? Based on the 2 plans, there's not a significant difference. They have added other things that they do in there, but that's just part of the budget.
There's a few small things like that scenario I used, they actually would go and get them for defecating and stuff. But is that what we want to pay for? And again, I want to remind everybody, this is a starting point, not an end point.
Right.
I have a hope, but I'm only expressing it for myself. If we were smart, we would be working with the Humane Society as a perfect example to look to partner on creating a facility of our own in Mason County to where we can start to have control of our own future. But that's a long process. I was on the planning commission when animal control facility came up, and it was a huge nightmare. It ended up not happening because of it. When the Humane Society bought their property up there by the school, that alone was a huge one. I, as an individual, went and talked because the schools were against it, and there was a niece of Vidal Sassoon that was going to sue them all. And I went and got them all to buy in to allow for it, but they had to make promises they weren't going to let for drop-offs, and because the individual citizens just dropped that dog off at the school. That's not good. There had to be protections, but they were willing to do it. But it was hard. It was really hard. To get this with the Humane Society, to build that facility and everything, and going after grants, you're probably talking 5-10 years. But I'd like to see us, if we do this, at least start that process. Partner with them, because they still help us. They've helped us more than we could ever imagine. And we're still gonna be talking to them about different medical things, although medical is included in this. We're gonna have our own stuff that happens. This does not include the large animals and cattle and stuff like that, as it couldn't anyway. But we have citizens that step in. I'd like to see us eventually look at this as just one phase with the idea that hopefully 5-10 years we're able to move on to having our own, or not.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it works out, it works out, and they can move, or they can move forward with it. So I do love this idea. I know that you guys, the sheriff's office vetted it first, didn't you look at it, and then you guys all started working
Yeah,
together?
I met with the sheriff first and foremost with the documents that we had listed up, and then I also met with Mark on it too to make sure, and gave everybody time while I was gone. So I gave everybody time to look at the different options, contacted him about it to make sure, and that was the one concern, and I have to admit, it's a viable concern. We can send all the deputies out there Sunday night to do it, but wouldn't it be an inexpensive option if they'll accept it? We offer an extra $5,000 that they give us. Even if they gave us 5, hopefully we never use those 5. But it's worth it to have, or maybe we ask for them to do it for $1,000 per call emergency service. But then we have to hope that you keep your people in check and they don't call them.
Yeah.
I like the cap, but that's just how it goes.
I like stage 2 or option 2 with the ability to move up to option 3 if
We have that.
If you can't get the $5,000.
Yeah, they gave us the ability to even, they told us, expressed to us that if we decide we want to grow, because we decide we need more, that they're open to having that conversation. That's why they gave us all three.
Yeah.
You don't see any really price difference in the 2 or 3. It's just those extra 2 days. You know, what's the load that we're going to take off of our sheriff's department?
And the Humane Society does a great job, I mean, with that last big call.
And
that-
they're
that
willing to
they-
work with
that we
them, by
had.
the way. That was
Yeah.
the only thing that finally sold me, because in dealing with all these animal groups, I can tell you, there's times when they're all at war with each other. They'll hate each other, because this happened or this happened, but then they get back in good graces. I was worried about this, but everybody seems to be willing to work with them. They have a record of being able to work with them. They're willing to work with them, and they look forward to it, because they're gonna need them to help move the animal stuff, because there's gonna be quite a few. So they have to all work together.
And she's got an amazing van all set up too, so I think partnerships.
Yeah, and remember, we were looking at paying for that and everything
Yeah.
else. This would save this county if we had animal control. It'll save us. So do we have an agreement on number 2 with asking for a small adjustment for emergency call out?
Yep.
Yeah, I would say 2, but I would be willing to go to 3 for weekends. If you can't strike a deal with them, if you can't negotiate that extra, I would be willing to go for 3.
Now, right now, I'm stuck on 2 just because we don't have the money, but I'll work on that, and if not, if we can't, how about if I take it this way? I'll talk to them, negotiate it out, and if they say no to that, then we'll have another discussion before we even do anything.
Oh, I like
Are
that.
you comfortable with that?
Okay. Yeah, no, that sounds like a great idea. I think I 100% agree that we don't have anything now. So it's really nice to actually be able to see what this service can provide and how it can help us without a huge investment into something. And I'm definitely interested in continuing to talk to the city if they wanted to come in, and maybe that increase from 2 to 3 is not as large. I don't know.
No, and I think if we establish this, what would be wise, because I talked to them about, I still cared about the city regardless of whether we were able to work with them or whatever, because there's some cost savings that can happen with them already being here and stuff. So I've already been discussing with them what it might look like with the idea of them coming in with their own, but they could utilize us if we are willing to work with them, which I know we always are. We just wouldn't be so strict that it have to be our 2 people. That'd be up to us at the time, that it may be able to keep their costs down so they can afford to do it. And jump on. And then maybe the next contract becomes a contract with all 3 of us, working together with the actual contract. So we end up with a lot more service for everybody because it'd be enough economy of scale.
I had the opportunity to travel up to Snohomish County with our auditor, Dunkel, and a citizen that currently provides some of these services on a volunteer basis right now. So Karen Salapka. And so the 3 of us went up to Snohomish County to see their operations, and wow, amazing. They don't house any of the animals that they get, but they spend about $1.9 million a year on their staff that go around and do that. Yeah, it's pretty expensive. But great resource too for us in terms of they were super open to helping us and providing us guidance and ideas, and we talked a little. I talked a little about using JASCOM to supplement it, or at least get something started here in the county. Is better than nothing, and they definitely understood that too. But yeah,
I was really
Yeah,
impressed
very
with
good.
him too. I do want to say that. When he was there, when it first started, I sat back in my chair, waiting for a bunch of bull and some other stuff. I'd say 5 minutes into it, I was sitting in front of my chair, and we were having direct dialogue. They were for real. I was very impressed with them, actually. Like when I would ask a question, I didn't get all that bull you get when you do that. They actually would answer it, and they brought me to the front of my seat, and I felt like we were negotiating, and we did. We asked for breakdowns and cut costs right from the very beginning, and they were open-minded, and they want to see if they can make it work with us too, because they have dreams of facilities and stuff. There's a joint benefit.
Maybe they could
Absolutely.
expand in Mason County.
That's part of what they actually are. If we do this, they are. But, and I don't want to throw a monkey wrench in anything, but I want to remind you, there'll still be a point at one time where there's gonna be a discussion about how that's handled. Does it stay underneath the commission? Does it stay underneath Mark? Or do the phone calls go to a different department? So just keep all that in mind, because none of that is decided yet either, until we do it. So it'll be up to you guys to how you want to do it, whether you want the phone calls to go to Mark or not.
Cool. Mark can handle it.
Just tell ya.
I like dogs.
Being open-minded and looking at all options is always best for the county,
Yeah,
so,
we send him to Kelly too.
yeah.
So great, so definitely heard support from all three commissioners to continue to move forward on this and solidify what the proposal will be, and we'll bring it back to you and get it on the agenda with the hopes of having something in place by
April,
April, May.
but right now we changed it a little bit because we had a special provision to make sure that if all of us are on the same page, that I've been given permission to make a phone call, see if I can negotiate a little extra for that other. If that is not negotiated, then we will sit down and have the discussion on whether or not to go to phase 3.
Yep.
Like I said, I don't think we have the money, I really don't, but that's what we agreed to, and I'll stand by that.
Okay.
Well, it's a lot cheaper than 1.3.
It's cheaper than even when we thought, because
Yeah.
the only way we were gonna keep it under 500,000 was a teamwork, because we'd need money from the city and everything else. It's still gonna be 350,000 for us if we did it, and we have all those employees, and there's a lot of, and risks.
Well, and liabilities.
I was gonna say, and risks, liability is a
Yeah.
big thing.
Yeah.
And they have their own
Liability.
insurances and their own, which is huge, because like I said, they're already established within other counties.
Yeah.
Okay, so I understood it right, correct?
Yep.
So I'll make the phone calls after this, and we'll see what we can do.
Okay. And thank you.
Can I say one thing? Or no?
We normally don't allow it because
Just
it's
one.
like a staff. Make it short and sweet.
I'm seeing line 1 and 2 as two totally separate things, that
Yes.
if you pick 2, you're really at 225,000. Because that line 2 doesn't incorporate the 50,000 for the animals, that's
No.
staffing only.
No, the 50,000 was just for housing animals only. No
Right, and so
staff,
then
no
line
nothing.
2 shows as field response only. Does that include?
They told us it includes the animal. I asked them for the other
Okay.
one. Specifically, in case the commission was not open to the consideration, I asked them for at the very bare minimum to put together a proposal that would house the animals, because we have no ability at this moment to house anything.
Because line 2 just looks like staffing to me, not the 50,000 with the animals. That also being said, the basic medical doesn't include spay and neuter, so is the county then going to get bills for every animal that they spay and neuter?
Well, the Humane Society offers a service also.
Right,
for spay and
170
neuter.
per animal on top of the 400 that you're paying.
Remember, that will be in the final documents for the
Okay.
final decision. And I want to be careful that we don't blow this up and screw it up, because we're saying this now, and everything we say goes on to somebody else
Okay.
out there.
Okay, okay.
So,
Right. Right.
Okay. So that's all we had for you for central services.
I got one thing.
Oh, sorry,
You forgot me.
I forgot you.
The sign is up for the hunters
Yeah.
to dedicate this building. I did put a piece of over so you can't see it, but Mackenzie, you guys, I think we just need to come up with a date, call the family, and do that dedication. It's ready for you guys whenever you're ready.
What if we do it on a Tuesday after our regular meetings?
I prefer that. Is that bench out there for Jerry Lingle still? up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's still there.
Okay. After a Tuesday meeting?
That's fine with me if Mackenzie can get a hold of the family and set that up. And I would assume that somebody will say something or go from there. I'll have it unveiled by then, and
We have a good history write-up of the service provided.
So that email that they sent.
we definitely have
It's
the
great
letter.
history, yeah.
So you're talking about not tomorrow,
Not tomorrow, more than likely next
2 weeks,
Tuesday if we
2
can
weeks from
get a hold of them.
okay.
That's all I had.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
it looks beautiful. I saw it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does look cool.
Yeah.
How did she see it? It's covered up.
I saw it when they were putting it up.
Oh,
I saw it when they were putting it up. All right.
yeah, so that'll be next Tuesday, Pat, the 4th. That's when we have our next
Thanks,
regular
Sheriff.
commission.
Yeah. I thought tomorrow was gonna be pretty pretty aggressive to get the family together by tomorrow. That was
And we don't have a regular meeting tomorrow, so. So yeah, so we're good to go on the 4th, it looks like, is temporary.
Yep. You guys can just make your way to the table.
Yeah, come on.
All right, wasn't sure where you were on the agenda, so.
Oh, we're right on you.
Perfect.
Yeah, come on in.
Perfect. We'll get out of it. Brennan, welcome back.
Thank you.
Take her away.
Okay. Mike, first up, he's gonna tell you about all the great work that county forces did this year.
Well, yeah.
Every year, we have to put in the paper and report the final cost for county forces work that was performed in 2024 for this year. So we did the 3 projects, Bear Creek to Watto, the Tunerville bridge culvert, and then we did the 2 conversions of gravel conversions. So about $953,000, and our limit was 1.2 million about. So we're under our limit, and we got some work done.
Yeah, and commissioners, statewide, the average of all counties is about 10% utilization of county forces. So Mike and Jeremy and our engineering team and our road operations, of course, the folks that make it happen, have done a great job in utilizing that to the best. And of course, it stretches road fund dollars all the much further.
And the bill that's going, that Rippy is working on, it looks like it's moving very
Yes,
quickly.
yes.
So it's in rules right now.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, I saw that.
yeah, that's very cool.
It is. Yeah, Tunerville, Mike will be shy about it, but we saved the taxpayer, federal taxpayer, it's federal funds, just under $1 million by doing that project, designing in-house and constructing in-house. So, tremendous.
I like saving money.
Yep.
They don't let you do that. That's the first time in 35 years I've ever been able to spend federal dollars with county forces, because they don't let you do that.
Really?
So they make you contract it out. So we had to prove to them that we were capable of building the structure. And so we had to send them a bunch of photographs and stuff of other structures that we've done this year.
Basically, your resume, past experience.
Wow. Great
But-
job.
Yeah, we did a good
Yes.
job.
Yeah.
It needed to be done, so.
Yeah, that's cool. So this has to go in the newspaper?
Yes.
Let everybody know.
Yep. Yeah. Part of the RCWs that we
Yep.
have to do every year is notify first what our game plan is for county force work, and then at the end of the year to report back what we actually did perform.
Can you also share this with our representatives,
Yes.
with our legislators?
Yep.
Because I think this would be something that they could put in their belt as another hammer for Mason County.
Yep.
For Mason County, not to be used.
Yes, not to be used against. Yeah. All right, next up, commissioners, is a requested amendment to our interlocal agreement with Central Mason Fire. And in the past, we had a separate agreement with Fire District, I always get this wrong, 11, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes, and to provide services, fire services to the Public Works campus. And so this is simply rolling that into our new ILA with Central Mason. And the one change that I just want to highlight is that this would continue. We wouldn't be bringing this to you year after year for the fire protection services. It's until either one of us say, nah, we're not participating in this ILA anymore. So I did want to highlight that for you.
So what about the cost per year?
So if they have not indicated any change in that cost per year, but if, for example, Central Mason came to us and said, oh, yeah, we really need to up that, that would trigger an amendment, another amendment to the ILA. Yeah, to be
This
able
is
to-
mainly because Fire District 11 changed their name by incorporating extra
So it's a new entity.
That is one reason, that's correct, Commissioner. And then the other, it just was not renewed at the end of the year, so rather than having two separate agreements, and bringing it forward separately, yep.
Yeah, they combined. Central Mason and Loretta.
Okay, alrighty, next up is some Belfair utility work, where as we continue to go through and do deep dives on financials and so on, Stephanie and her finance team and Richard have been uncovering fun little cleanup things, and this is one of them.
Yeah, we had found 4 properties that had failed to connect during that initial period. One since was sold and connected, so that's taken care of. But we have 3 left, and we had filed liens against their properties so that eventually we began to connect. And I think the treasurer was like ready to, hey, these are foreclosable. Well, we had filed liens wrongly. They should have just been notices to the property that when the septic system fails, they gotta connect, or if they sell the property, they gotta connect at that time. So basically, that's what we're wanting to do, is remove the liens and then file notices onto those properties.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I didn't like that. I didn't like the idea of putting a lien to force them to sign up, because if they've already just put in a septic system, it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it was misapplied, but in the code it was misinterpreted, so it should have been a notice to begin
Well,
with.
historically, again, it was at one point required by law, not by the county. I hated it, I fought against it as a citizen. It just was ridiculous that these people were being forced to go on there. But the state was requiring it back then. It wasn't until Jan Angel brought forward a bill with Dan Griffey's help on the House, where they changed it to make it where it's not absolutely required. And that was the game changer. But back in the day, there was a requirement if there was something to hook up to. I myself am one of the people I paid to hook up to nothing there, but that was this way I could fight it here against the commissioners that were here when I was commissioner. So I paid $10,000, even though there was nothing to hook up. Everything was dilapidated and shut down. So. So right now, you got one of those out there, I told you about it, still paid the money.
All right, great. I know our finance team will be excited to get that cleaned up and get rolling. I think they've got the paperwork ready to go today.
Yep.
And also, I know that our treasurer will be happy as well, so,
I appreciate the explanation.
yeah.
My reaction was like, wait, what?
Yeah, and then I think the only thing, Richard, on that, it said something about a reasonable time, and our intent is to not set a time in the notice, but simply lay out the conditions that Richard just described.
I think it's still in our code that if they
septic
build,
fails.
they have to get, that's already in our code, it says that. So if they build, they have no choice, they can't get a permit without
There
it.
will be a trigger,
Yeah.
absolutely, and those
If
triggers will
there's
be,
a septic failure, then.
yes.
Yep,
Yep,
septic failure and or.
Expansion was
change of
another
property.
one that triggered it back then.
yeah,
Yep,
yep,
bringing it to the current code.
all right.
Sweet.
Great, thank you. Okay, next up, a discussion item, commissioners, on proposed tip cap outreach. And in your packet, you saw two, I guess, outreach methods. One is the PowerPoint that would go on a roadshow, for lack of a better word, in the event that different citizen groups or community groups invited TIPCAP to come present, then that is what is proposed to be used. And then the other, the advisory committee had thought it might be a good idea to send out a survey to just get some broader input from citizens countywide. And so that was the other document that you saw in there. And the idea was to use something similar to like when we did the Island Lake survey, that we had a little QR code and made it available to people So anybody could submit and respond online to the survey. And just wanted to hear if there are any comments or suggested additions or subtractions or.
This is the same PowerPoint you used up in Belfair.
Pretty darn close. There've been some small modifications, Commissioner, but pretty darn close.
So historically, again, for those that don't know, I'm one of the ones that recreated the actual committee, and there was a purpose for it. I was also served on the committee years ago. I served on it, and one of the issues, the reason why it was created was actually very specific. It was created to make sure that politicians, such as ourselves, didn't pick projects and have it go out there without having citizens' input. Because in the past, there were driveways that were paved. Actually, I got a perfect one for you. If you ever go through Allen and you look at the restaurant that's right there, that used to be the driveway right next to it, where all the parking is and stuff. Commissioners just decided to create a road on that side, put it all the way over there, nice parking, nice. That's how things were done back then. And so the committee was created to stop that from happening and actually at least have a citizen's input on it to make sure the monies were being spent appropriately. When we allowed them to go out on a road show in the past, it was because we had certain things we'd never been doing before. I want to remind you, because you were here for that, where we were expanding the roads. Actually, your idea, we were basically getting bike lanes without having bike lanes. We were doing a bunch of stuff, and we wanted to see how that would play out there to make sure it wasn't just us with our projects and things that we wanted getting out there in the public. But it was always very, very careful on how we did it. We had it presented to us, we approved it, and had to go out for that purpose. The attorneys have already told us, and Risk has already told us as well, when we send individuals out, or even groups, we take on the different liabilities that go with all that. And the necessity of that is what? They can't really do too much because the representative of them is gonna be us. The representative of the road department is gonna be them. It is important to be able to have input, but the input was always to be had in those offices where it was under control of staff to make sure there was no issue or no violations, or there wasn't somebody asking or requesting public records requests or anything else. So it was always kept there. That's why it was set up, so they could take the input, is this way they can have public hearings, to have that, to give that response back to us talking to the people, because quite often, as you've seen, a commissioner, actually you guys weren't here, but the commissioner in that past would just put it on there, fight with the other one commissioner, and there it went. And so that was the reason for the creation. So although it seems like a good idea, when we went out, we did get good feedback, it's definitely not something that should be a normal thing for any of our committees. Because these are citizen advisory committees that just answer to us. When they're out there on their own representing themselves, things happen, mistakes happen. And the next thing you know, we're in trouble, and there's no need for it. If people want to have a comment, or if it's a special issue that comes up, like that road widening and a few other things, then we say, hey, go ahead and go out and get that input. But other than that, it's worked in all these years for every one of our committees where they come to us, except for when it's a special occasion. That's for every one of them. Tip cap, the one that you serve on when it comes to,
Track, solid waste.
oh, that one too. That one's mandated by law, where tip cap is not mandated by law. Yeah,
Parks Advisory
yeah,
Board.
LTAC and stuff like that, it's all very, very strict, but even LTAC is actually required by law. So a couple of those actually are. The tip cap never was. It was just there as a mechanism to try to have the ability for the community to have and know what's going on.
Yeah, Mackenzie went out and she did a little research to see which committees we have to have and which ones we don't. There's quite a list of ones that we don't, so.
Yeah, there is. But you know, as.
But it's always good to hear from the public
Yeah,
as well.
as Pat had made clear, it's nice to have information and to give people the opportunities. As long as they're kept control of, like there always have been historically, we've been able to avoid any real issues. Things still do happen. As I said, there was times where we've had to ask people to remove from the committee and stuff because of different things that have occurred. But you're never gonna get perfect. But we should protect ourselves and the community and keep it to what it is supposed to be. It should never be a mechanism for anybody to use out there. It is the commissions.
Like I said before, I'm always interested in more public input than less. That's who we work for. That's who we're supposed to be taking care of. So the more input we can get from the citizens, so if this is a vehicle for that, great. If it's causing problems, okay, we need to address the problems, but always more input from the citizens is better.
So Pat, before COVID, we did have a lot more impact, and I think we may all agree that it's time for us to do it again. The one that was supposed to do that, Pat, was us, and we did. For some reason at COVID, we used to meet every fifth Tuesday up in Belfair. We also started reaching out to meet in Hoodsport, and that was me that was asking and got Kevin to go along with it, and we started meeting in Hoodsport. So we used some of those fifth Tuesdays. But the ones that are supposed to take that input is us. That is our job. And I have no problem with us going back to doing our job and meeting out there every fifth Tuesday in North Mason, and then once in a while throwing one in Hoodsport. We're very well attended, but you know what? If you don't have it, it'll never be attended. You have it, and after so many years, they got an issue, they will attend. Or an issue shows up and they attend. It's not always pretty, it's not, but that's what public input is. It's not always pretty.
The other side of that coin is when we're sitting there, believe it or not, we're intimidating to some citizens. If they're going to a citizen panel or a citizen advisory panel, it is easier for them to, sometimes a citizen will go to TIPCAP and voice their concerns or their ideas or whatever it is, where they may not do it with a commissioner. So, like I said, more citizen input is
Well, and they're
is
still
good.
able to do that. They just do it within the confines of the meetings.
The meeting.
Where they actually have staff to make sure that there are no mistakes and everything is done appropriately, and any public records request or anything that comes on is handled. That's the beauty of it. Other than that, then it becomes a circus instead, and that's not appropriate. We can get input, but input should be taken in a manner to where it's our staff taking the input. They can ask for it, but it's our staff that's the one that has to write it down and keep track of all of it.
Well, and I think that that's why we have staff at the meetings, is to make sure that everything is kosher, you know, the guidelines are followed and.
Yep. And I have to say that probably in the last year or two, there has been increased citizen attendance, either via Zoom or actually coming to the meetings themselves. And so that's been great.
And that's what it was designed for.
Absolutely, but for the longest time, very few folks would show up. And I don't know if it was just a matter of how it was advertised or getting the word out, but.
Sometimes it takes a while for people to understand or to know that they can join.
Yes.
And I want to remind everybody, Risk sees the issue with it, and so did our attorney. If we go opposite of that on our own, then we will take the liability, but that is part of any decision we make. So it's nothing different.
I like the fact that people are going out and talking, that you guys are going with them. You know, our groups, like Parks Board too, they could go out and talk about things, you know, what's happening with the parks and things like that. I think that there could be more community outreach, I guess, just to make people aware, help people become aware that we've got these committees. SWAC is a great example. I mean, not too many people are interested in solid waste. I am. I think it's awesome. Yeah, I love talking crap and trash. So I think our committees are very valuable because people do know that they can reach out. But it's also very valuable to have staff there.
And that's why we've always kept control on how we've done it. That's kept us safe, it's kept us warm at night. It's just when it starts going out there, when you start it, you may have control over it the first 10 times, but it's the 12th time, and that's the dangers. But that's why these were set up to be professional and in-house. Whenever we hold a hearing at the planning commission, of which is on the planning commission, it's very strict with rules and regulations that happen and how the testimony is taken in and how it's expressed out. That's what keeps us safe.
So the survey, how is that, would that be countywide? How would you get that notice out that there's going to be putting the survey out there?
Similar to what we did last time, I'm imagining, commissioners, like we would discuss it during briefing, we would have kind of a public announcement. We've got the survey, we're interested in hearing about what you think is going great, or if you've got some suggestions, and the idea is that we're gathering this information for consideration as we're putting together the next tip. And it's input that I'm sure Mike and the team already have a good beat on, but sometimes you get something that, all right, that's a problem. We weren't quite aware that was a big deal.
I think they're effective.
So that's,
I
it's
do.
helpful.
I think they're effective, and one of the best parts is when we put it out and it comes to our staff, though, we also keep all the input and control, so if we ever get butt work, requests or anything like that too.
Yeah.
That's,
Particularly the multimodal, you know, those are the things that we don't necessarily always have a good beat on, like where people are wanting to bike or walk from, and we hear certainly, but not always as fully as we could, so.
So can you change slide 11
Slide
on page
11
11?
is,
So you've got this great big thing in there that says, give cyclists space. And
Oh.
there's no space for the cyclists because of the sign.
right? We're blocking it, yes. They have to dodge out there and,
Yeah.
I'm not even sure about the angle of the lane. The whole thing is kind of confusing to me.
Yeah, I don't even know that that's one of ours.
I don't think so. I think it's something that Phil might have found somewhere else perhaps, but yeah.
I saw that and I was like, huh, if I was a bicyclist.
Yeah. The other thing that, on slide, where is it? About the revenue side. This is focused specifically on the construction program. And when we talk about a diversion, that's really out of our entire budget, our entire revenue for the road fund. So maybe another slide that just talks about the big picture, property tax, motor vehicle fuel tax, all that business.
Right.
And then that would be, in my mind, a more appropriate place where the diversion would come. Maybe if we want to talk about that, because this makes it seem like it's direct out of the construction program, which is not necessarily
Right. Yeah,
the
so
case.
maybe some tweaking of the slides would be good.
And then, did commissioners have a chance to take a look at what's already on the tip caps page, the advisory board webpage? There were a couple links about.
I just got back.
Yeah, I know. But the previous outreach presentation, which had a lot more detail, is posted currently on the page. And then there's also a link already for folks, like if you've got an idea or a suggestion for a transportation improvement project or idea of something that needs to happen, they can submit there. So that's always been a part of the outreach.
Okay.
Okay, I want to make
I
sure.
do love our new website.
Yeah, we've got some little tweaks and things to do certainly on our pages, but yes, agreed, yeah. So, I want to make sure I'm clear on direction. If we receive a request from a group, then I would be attending the meeting and presenting and giving an update. TipCap could come with to talk about if you've got ideas, attend a meeting, if you want to join membership. Otherwise, we're not doing a specific planned outreach.
Now, see, that part doesn't bother me.
Is that, yeah, I just want
But
to make sure
but
that.
that's me, I heard different though, so, and I don't list up on any other commission.
Yeah.
That part doesn't bother me because there is a role for somebody to stand there and say, listen, TipCap does this, this, and this, and if you wanna join, except for that doesn't do any good either if you actually are filled.
But we
That's-
aren't.
No,
At
we're
this
not,
point,
so
yeah.
with that
I don't know
though,
that we ever have been.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, there was one district that was always one short. Wasn't yours?
Yep, I know.
Always one, maybe even two at one point, they had none for years.
yeah, well, it's
Talking about your
tough.
district,
I know.
But, you know,
Gotta
to
get out
ask,
there and recruit.
that doesn't bother me, because that would make sense, somebody stand up with you, you're giving the presentation, you're the one that represents us. If they have any questions, they have any comments or anything, it goes through our staff, so there's no mistake or anything. Somebody wants to stand up and talk about tip cap for a minute and about what the role is, I think that's, you know, the same thing that we would have for LTAC or anything else, if we needed the membership, that makes sense. You know, you could always do it too, but I don't see any issue with them doing it, I don't think it puts us at risk. As long as they talk about that role and what that is. When they start talking about the projects and stuff, then there becomes the expectation that what they're saying is what's gonna happen, because they're the representatives. But if they're just doing the other, that doesn't bother me, just so you know.
I think to me, the clear delineation, which I feel like they've tried to do a good job of in the past, but needs to be very clear, is that we have advisory boards that are advisory in nature. Our staff work for the commissioners. They don't take direction from anybody but the commissioners. And so when citizens actually provide input, if they look at something that TIPCAP comes out with in terms of recommendations, that doesn't mean that it's going to happen. It still has to go before the Board of County Commissioners to.
Well, even when people make recommendations to me on anything, it's like, well, okay, well, we'll talk about it, but that's not something I can do.
Correct.
I have no power as sole commissioner.
Yep.
So,
One of three.
Yep.
I'd love to hear it, but it's like, okay, well, we'll discuss it, because that's what we gotta do. But
All right,
Okay,
clear as mud.
clear as mud.
So I heard that when asked to go do presentations, you can still go do presentations. Staff will actually do the presentation of the specific project and the work that we have planned to do. TIPCAP members can be there to kind of encourage individuals to say, hey, this is when TIPCAP meets. If you'd like to attend a TIPCAP meeting, here's how you do that. You have the Zoom option, you have the option of showing up in person, and then the role of TIPCAP in terms of being an advisory.
Well, they can also listen. So while they're there listening to the citizen, the citizen has an issue, because as people that have been on those committees will tell you, there are times where staff and citizen disagree. And it's up to the citizen to talk to staff. Back in the time before we killed it, to recreate it, one of the reasons why I had to kill it is because citizens would make a recommendation. Staff would come in and give the presentation with nothing from the citizen. They would give their own presentation for what they wanted. This was years ago and so, but that's, when I was on it was like, what is that? Why are we here then? If we can't have a discussion and have our views get to the commissioners, then why do we exist? Because they wouldn't even give our view, it just didn't exist. And
Well,
that's inappropriate.
I'm gonna kind of encourage us to move along, because we're out of time, but. All right,
Yep.
all right.
Alrighty, and then commissioners, for upcoming items, if we do get a request to attend, we'll list the upcoming meeting and where and when and all those good things, so you're aware of it. Alright, next one,
This one is so much fun.
I know, it's quick and easy. Richard, or I don't know if Kevin's on, the animal carcasses. No,
Animal carcasses.
Animal carcass.
Okay, yeah, we got a letter along with every other company that or whatever organization that takes anything to Cowlitz County, no more dead animals. I talked to Kevin, I said, why haven't we been having a glut of dead animals? Why are we getting this? He said, no, he was baffled by it. I talked to Mike, I go, no more dead animals. He goes,
And Mike says, yay!
Apparently.
We pull them off the road
Immortality
very
for
when
animals.
necessary. We don't take them to Cowlitz, do we?
No, we had one time in July, I don't know, while there was a
Because the
horse.
stink.
The whole
We
deal
had a
was
horse.
bald eagles. Apparently they got a hold of something and got really sick. So they figured it might have been a euthanized animal.
Wow.
So, yeah, we've got options if people have
You
a
want me
dead
to ask
horse or something,
animal
don't bring it to
control
us.
About
Pigs will
disposal.
take
Yeah.
it, it's
Yeah,
$800
so,
to
yes,
Be a problem, or might not.
incinerate it.
It's worth asking, right?
Yeah.
If you don't ask, the
We
answer is
know.
no.
Right.
Yeah, so
Don't know
in
if that's-
Cowlitz, Animal Services does provide that service apparently.
But then again, where would they take it? That wouldn't be our problem. Different county.
Oh, they might have a service in Thurston County that they could take.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'll ask.
And Richard and Kevin did reach out. Sorry, we were kind of talking over.
Oh, yeah.
But there are some options.
Sure, yeah, like Hague's out on Arcadia, large animals, they'll take large animals. It is $800 per animal to incinerate it. And then, of course, you have your steamboat or the Shelton
I
vet
think
will
you can still get a
take
cremation
care
for
of cremating your other
$649.
animals. But if you got a fish or whatever bird, we triple bag it, we won't see it. I mean, that wasn't the issue. It's large animals, and
Right.
that was the deal, so.
Yeah,
We
so-
really don't have to change any of our practices.
Okay.
Yeah, bottom line, it will not have a big impact or minimal impact on our
No.
operations.
Just got the letter, so I thought you guys might want to say I got this letter.
I do want to say I appreciate our staff and how they do handle it, because I do get those calls from people, and our staff, when it's on the roads and stuff, do find ways to handle it. They get it off the road, which is a safety issue, it's not it, but sometimes that smell and everything, they've even known to bury them in order to keep the smell down, and
Yeah.
a thank you has to come along with that, because that's not part of the job. It's just what you guys provide for an extra service, so.
Yeah, we appreciate them keeping their shovels.
Yeah,
So,
All
yeah.
right, the next
Sometimes
one
good.
is your water leak policy.
that's,
Proposed water leak policy, we went, of course, you're acutely aware, we switched how we bill water at the beginning of the year, and occasionally, since they're billed on consumption, if they do have a water leak, it could result in an unexpected high bill. And we're kind of proposing a policy here to take care of that, to help out the customer on a limited time basis. We haven't prescribed the amount of times in the policy, that draft policy that we provided, but typical is like once every 3 years. Normal, like city of Shelton, I believe it's once every 3 years. I know the city of Lacey is as well. But yeah, they just can't call up and say, hey, I had a water leak. I mean, they gotta prove it.
Right.
and
Oh,
prove
and
that
they've
they
gotta-
corrected it.
Right.
And that they've corrected it, and they provide the receipts. We've got a draft form for them to fill out, that they'll have to attest that, I didn't sell a bunch of water to a neighbor or something like that to fill their tub or, fill their pools or whatever. But,
I had contacted them on some of this, and so I appreciate you bringing this forward. When I was a port commissioner, we had a system, we had water, so we dealt with this, and I was shocked to find out that it's actually not a law. We were told at the time back then that it was a law that they were limited to one per 3 years. Ecology would step in and stuff like that, because they own all the water, whether we like it or not, even though we had a water system. But I did not find the law, I kept looking, but it is common policy to do that. The reason why I'm supportive of once every 3 years is it keeps them from doing stupid things and taking advantage of it. But back then, just so you know, an exemption like that came strictly to the commission. Staff was never allowed to make that, because sometimes it was several $1,000s. And it was required to come for the commission to make the decision. I'm not saying we do that, I'm just telling you that's how we did it back in those days.
Yeah. I'm very well aware of one instance recently, but that wasn't because of a leak though. That was, from what I understand.
yeah, that was not like a broken water line underneath
Right.
the house that they were unaware of.
Right, so,
It was just
so what's the
leaking.
difference of how are you going to, I know I saw the form, but how are you going to make sure it's not because they left the hose on for a long time, but that it was an actual leak?
Well, because they actually have to verify that it was fixed.
Yeah.
And show us receipts by either a licensed plumber. A licensed plumber can come out and assess it and provide that and the leak, that would be the best. But they could find it on their own and have somebody fix it and just provide, here's all the parts that we bought, and it's consistent with what they do, or describing as their leak. We could even inspect if we want, but if it's under the house, we can't.
Well, and you can keep control of it if you wanted to require that it comes before the commission, for the commission to decide for forgiveness of funds.
You know, the commission is so busy. Some of us have very limited time, and I would trust your judgment. We can see it on paper, and if you want, maybe make it a yearly report on who and why,
Right.
maybe.
Mhm.
Maybe
Yeah.
not even who, because I don't know that,
I mean,
I
we
mean,
could,
it's public record anyway.
Anonymize it.
yeah, it is listed by parcel number and that, or
If you do and they give you
System.
authority to do it, the one thing I will ask you though is to remember that sometimes the best advice to them is not to do it, because if it's a $300 thing and they have a big one of $2,000, because that's where it really comes in, they don't get the forgiveness of the 2,000 because they went after the forgiveness for the 300. If we set a policy this way.
And I believe that's
I think
in,
that's in the policy.
it is,
Yeah.
it is in
I
the
think you'll find
policy,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, please review the policy, it's definitely a draft. Simmons, the form,
No, I was asking you the questions because I knew you had the answer.
yeah. Thank you.
All the information is there, I just want to make sure that other people are aware.
That's right, it's all there.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
I guess the other side board, if commissioners were concerned, I mean, you could certainly set a limit
limit.
on the amount written off before it comes to you. Like, we
True.
have authority
Yeah.
up to
I like
whatever dollar amount, and then anything over that comes before.
I
you
like
know.
that. You know, maybe anything
Yeah.
over 2,000. Come to us before.
It's a big water leak.
It happens.
Well, it comes,
It
it
happens.
happens quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it adds up quick.
Especially when it's tiered rates based on
Yeah.
consumption.
It happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can happen really fast, really.
And by them going through a process like that, it'll help them to understand how important this is and how they have to be the one to cover it, because they have to stand in front of you to ask for that forgiveness. That's, because it's the people's money.
Yeah. That's a good thing to offer too, you know, for legit concerns, legit breaks and stuff like that's a good thing.
Do you want to
offer.
throw something like that in? I'm supportive of that, if you did.
Up to?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I can see that's, I'm all in favor of authorizing you guys to do,
Mhm.
handle up to a certain level, absolutely.
Okay.
Right, we'll get with staff, she'll have a good
Exactly.
idea about what might be the best reasonable
That's what I'm
threshold,
thinking.
and we'll bring this back in a final draft format for commissioners, and thanks to Stephanie and her team for running with this, and
Yeah.
Richard as well, pulling examples and preparing the first draft of the policy. And I know our customers will, it'll be a good thing, all the way around. Yeah.
So to be clear, we are gonna stick 3 in there, in section 6
Frequencies.
limitations,
Up to
where it
3
says
or
specified
3
number of
Every
years.
3 years.
That'll be 3.
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay,
All right.
Great.
Cool.
thank you, Richard.
Yeah, no, awesome.
All right.
Like I said, I've seen in the past, that was the saddest part, is watching a lady come in and get a forgiveness for, I think it was less than $200, and then she had a $2,000 one, and couldn't be granted because policy did not allow for it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a stupid mistake.
One discussion item I do not have on the agenda today, and that is the Bremerton ILA. And so commissioners, if we could spend just a couple minutes talking about next steps.
I was gonna step back one,
Yes.
we were just talking about once every 3 years. I guess I would wanna have something in there, about special circumstances where they could apply to get the commissioners to, because there could be, if you get a water leak and, you know, you fix it, you go through all that and you get,
I'm supportive of that. That's one of the reasons why I like the idea of commissioners' engagement, because I do think it'd be nice to have the ability, if it
because
was,
if it happened again,
More than twice.
you know, the
Well-
next year, and it was, you know, really no fault of the homeowner, and they paid to get it fixed, but
well, I'll give you a scenario how that could happen. Beards Cove has old pipes and stuff like that. We have old pipes that are there. It wasn't our system. We took it over because they went broke and stuff like that. So we keep trying to do all these things. Quite often when it breaks, we put it back on, pressure comes through and blows their personal line. That happens. That's not their fault, but it's their responsibility, anything beyond the connection. So I could see the scenario, real life, being an issue.
you know, I mean, we didn't, it wasn't a big deal, but we froze our pipes the very first year we moved here. They didn't take care of them. Well, I went up there and patched it, and then A little while later, it blew another hole out. It's just weakened the pipe
Yeah.
all along the whole thing. I ended up having to replace quite a bit of copper pipe that was garbage. But, you know, I'd fix one spot and then I'd blow another
There
spot.
goes the next
Did we all three
weak
agree with
link.
that one? Okay. I thought so, I just didn't know for sure.
Okay,
All right, cool.
all right,
Good one.
great. Okay, back to the ILA. We had a draft that was presented to us by the city of Bremerton, and we made some modifications, but have basically been on pause, recognizing we have a new commissioner and getting everybody all up to speed again, and have had time to kind of take a look at what the city had prepared and made some modifications, responded to commissioner questions and concerns, and at this point, wondering about next steps and what the commission would like to do with this lovely ILA.
I'd like to make a request. So, you guys know I just got some of this stuff, and there's some pretty good stuff in there that, I know, I've seen one of yours that I really love. I'd like a week to
Yeah.
look over this a little bit more, and I'd like to see the actual document that you're talking about, because I don't think I have our document that incorporates this. I just have the things that are on the side that it incorporates.
The draft.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I
And wanna-
didn't move any further.
Well, I'd like to see how
until-
what that looks like
Okay.
in the document.
Perfect.
You know, one of the things, you know, I'm not a fan of this. I represent that community, and I think I should have a great say in the thing, because I know my community. There's a lot of other arguments that go with it, but there's some stuff in there that is recommended that lessens the risk of us getting crushed if it ends up in there. And if we do get damaged or start to get damaged, we could maybe pull it back. There's some stuff that I hadn't have, and I have it now, and I'd like to take a week. Okay?
So I can, what we should do is Loretta and Richard and I met with both Commissioner Trask and Commissioner Tarswell separate times. Maybe we could set up a time period with you this week to have that same discussion.
Nope, that'd be wonderful, especially now that I have this, but I'd like to see that as a document first.
Yep.
Because I like to see how it goes in. I like the words here, but it doesn't mean it makes it into the
Yeah.
thing with the same
Yeah.
weight.
All right. We'll get reworking
Thank you.
and set up a time.
Thank you.
All
No
right,
matter how angry I ever
commissioners.
get, I always will try to do
How you doing on that?
We all do.
I promise you, I
We all
always
do.
will try.
Yep, we all do. It's good. All right.
I think that's all
That's it.
we have,
Anything for our
commissioners.
staff?
Yes and no, and for the life of me, I can't remember, because you and I talked for a
We
minute.
still have
but
vacation brain.
What did
so-
we talk about? Do you remember?
Vouchers,
We took care of that, that's what.
which those are all gone.
Yeah, you guys are all out of them already.
That's
I never
right.
got one in the first place, though.
Really?
Did we not?
She still has, well,
The ones out front.
Yeah, I need a stack, because I have others that I bring it to, other than, we, just so the other commissioner knows, there's a group called Trash Mash. Mark White, which was his name, he did a lot of great things in the community. They would go around, they pick up things. Somehow, some years ago, we started supplementing by doing it, and they picked up more stuff. So, a lot of my stuff always goes to them immediately, and I'd like to make sure I have some, because there's still some elderly in the community. There's other people that are being a community, like in Beards Cove, and they say, this lady's place is bad, we'll get together, we'll clean it, can you help us to get rid of it? And that's what these certificates are used for. There's a lot of good. So if you could make sure to give me at least 10, aside from the others, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
I come and steal, borrow some of hers, the trash bash, because they end up doing so much more than we
I'll just
we
leave
asked
mine at
for.
the front counter and that way.
Yeah.
They're
Because
available.
Friday, my gosh, it was just one right after the other.
Yeah.
The girls were very busy.
That's all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mackenzie put
Yeah.
out
Who'd
the,
have thought it was so popular?
But I'd like being able to hold them off for when it really can, the community can get together and clean up some elderly person's yard or something. It
Yeah.
makes a difference, it
It
really
does.
does.
It did.
I also appreciate Raven at the front desk there, making sure that individuals that tried to trick the system and get,
Yeah.
a number of them.
Wow.
She was really good about saying, let me, prove to me that you're a resident of Mason County.
Oh, I like her.
And
Yeah.
showed me
Well,
that.
It was all of them.
Yep, and so she would keep track of it, and when individuals would kind of go out and somebody else would come back in for the same address, she'd be like, yeah,
Wait
I
a minute.
already gave you one. Yep.
That's funny, it was like one of her first questions when we
Good
handed
job,
it to her.
Rita.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, she did a
Yeah,
real
it's
good
good.
job, and that's not easy to do, so.
No.
Commissioner, I think we just recommend her for a green star, right? No, we have a green star that we give if the commissioners get together, or their bosses basically, but we're her bosses. If we write a little letter asking for her to recognize for green star.
She probably prefers chocolate-covered strawberries.
I'll leave that to you.
Wow.
So I have a question on the limitations. I got a few of them because I have
Okay.
a few constituents
I
that
got
requested me to get some for them. What are the limitations?
On the solid waste vouchers?
The voucher, right?
They used to have limitations like 500 pounds of load. It's just good for your whole load now. We don't care what it weighs. 'Cause
Really?
It was just, yeah,
It was
We're only
just too
using
much
like-
of a barrier.
yeah.
for
No, I'm down with
loads.
it. Even last year, you lowered the amount, because it used to be 2,000 pounds, and you
It
lowered it
was
to
like,
1,000.
we've tried it all over the place.
Yeah.
We had a 2,000, we had a 500, we
That
had a
makes more
1,000.
sense.
It was like, just do it by the load, because otherwise they're coming in with 5 and then they're like,
Well, I
well,
figured those were Republican that was making those demands. I didn't know, because Republican was giving us those. That's how it started. I'm so glad this other company is doing it too.
Oh,
Yeah.
me
And
too.
if they're more flexible,
Doing a
God
good
bless them. Gotta thank them for that too.
It's a total tonnage, right, that
Yeah.
we can apply to it, and we hand out all the vouchers, and we
That's
never even get
close.
close to the tonnage that we're
Exactly.
allowed, so.
we're not even at half,
Well,
so.
Since there's no requirement on weight, that means they can take them to Belfair. Please make sure
Yeah.
that that's on the voucher. They weren't allowed to in the past. In the past, they had to bring
It's
them
just
here.
good for their load, yeah, so they can take them there. You bet. That was another
Which
thing.
is
I'm curious.
probably
I've been here
another-
13 years, since
another
finally.
barrier.
Okay, thank you. I
That was the only
appreciate that.
barrier we could get rid of, you know, for,
Good
to
enough.
make it work for
It
welfare.
changes
And no
everything,
dead
yeah.
animals.
No dead animals, that's the only limit. Hazardous waste we do for free on Fridays, recycling, we got that, so it's, yeah, pretty much.
Except I heard triple bag them and it's okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
If you got a cat, triple bag it.
Oh, goodness.
All right,
Okay.
anything else?
Nope.
All right, well, we are a bit behind.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, good thing I'm not
Actually,
showing
good
up today
segue
again.
into your next topic,
I'm
so.
gonna send you a table.
What's that?
Code enforcement, it's good, the
Oh,
vouchers
right.
and cleaning up properties, and
So, public
how do
health?
we encourage it?
This key was gonna suck. 2 weeks without it.
Come on
Must
up.
be a big crunch today.
Oh, no, Tripper.
I take 1 week off and kills me. 2
Queer
weeks, I
in.
don't even know what it's gonna be like.
Stay.
I'll be red,
Susan, do you wanna
bloated
come
up.
up to the table?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, y'all can just come on up.
Can I just sit here, is that okay?
I don't know, you can kick Mark every now and then if he misbehaves.
Is he here with you or is he doing,
We do have
something
vouchers
for,
still in both of our.
building? Are you doing something for building or are you part of this?
He's an
infiltrator. He's infecting my public health presentation.
Well, then come on up, dude.
I didn't know who she was.
Very warm seats.
I know, but we like you. You gotta get us up here. Hold you accountable.
That's fair, that's fair.
All right, take it away.
So, good morning, Commissioners. First item I have is the Puget Sound Partnership Contract. This is a contract that, oh, by the way, because I don't know if we've met formally, I'm Ian, I'm the Environmental Health Manager. This is the Puget Sound Partnership Contract. So this is a contract that's unusual. We haven't really gotten one of these before, but it's a contract that will allow us to actually fund repairs of septic systems.
That's how they're gonna do it this time?
Where we can actually fund septic repairs, which is nice, because
Yeah.
before it's been limited to just pumpings or inspections. So we can't, you know, a major repair could just, or, you know, a couple of those could just wipe out the account completely, so
Do they have a dollar amount they've given you? What did they set up?
they have not made a hard line with us. We have to create a policy, once we have the contract in place, that they will then approve for giving out. And what we were thinking of is around 1,500, just because that's what some other jurisdictions have done, limiting it to 1,500 to go towards repairs. Now, that's not a lot of money, but it can help with some repairs that people have.
Well, it depends on how much the money is, and will it be given as a loan, or will it be given as a total grant?
This is a grant.
We had it in the past, years ago, where it was given as a loan and it came back and was able to be used again for over and over again over the years. It'd be nice if that came back again, because then we can do $5,000 repairs. And some of them are pretty extensive on that. Now, you have in your budget, though, a budget impact of 214,000.
So that's the,
It ain't working.
you gotta,
Hello.
you gotta,
It says it's,
you have to mute your speakers on your computer itself.
Test. Nope.
So the amount of money that we're receiving total is 214,000, and then that's further subdivided into Hood Canal and South Sound. So there's a portion we can use for Hood Canal and a portion for South Sound. And it's further subdivided that part of that has to be property inspections, but the majority of it is going towards repairs and inspections and pumpings. I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, it does,
Okay.
the wheels are turning, I'm just trying to think of how to get the biggest bang out of that. If we were able to do some of it as a loan, then we can keep doing it, because there's some issues, especially on the waterways and stuff like that. Now that you're on the Alliance of the Healthy South Sound, I used to be the chair of that, and the Hood County Courting Council, now I'm back on the Hood County Courting Council. I'd like to see us get some PIC money again. I love this, it's just, I'd like to find a way to get the greatest impact, so we could really have a difference. Some people, all they need is a year to be able to pay back 5,000 and they're good to go, and they have their septic back going again. So maybe you can look at that and ask them?
I'll ask the
Because even if you
partnership.
just took a chunk of it, 50,000 for example, up to 5,000 for repair, that's 10 people, but then after a year of paying it back, that's 10 people.
Yeah,
It is a
I
federal
don't know.
grant, so we'd have to look into that and see if that's allowable.
That's what I'm asking. See
Yeah,
if it's
I'd have
allowed.
to ask them. I'd be surprised if they say yes. Usually this is just, it's just, it's just a grant. And it has a very hard end date. We have a hard end date of June 30th, 2027 for this. So getting money back, I don't know, I'd have to talk to them, but I will talk to them about it. But this is just a request to allow Mark to sign the contract with the partnership.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I support it.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 3 for 3.
I'm not their fan, but I might be their fan.
All right, now the next item is the long one. So some of this will be a repeat for Commissioners Trask and Netherland, but I want to reiterate some of it just because you don't have a lot of context. So back in September of last year, very end of September, we had a code enforcement workshop where we discussed code enforcement challenges that Mason County is facing. And I'm going to hopefully be able to share my screen.
It's funny because a lot of the pictures that you have on there, I've been to those sites.
Oh, well, see, I was gonna make it like a virtual ride-along, but you've already been there, right? Where's the button?
Sheriff and I went for a ride. It's been amazing.
Amazing isn't the use of the word you have to describe.
No.
So, code enforcement has been a challenge, but in general, just as an overview, our code enforcement programs are primarily sewage, solid waste, food, as far as environmental health goes, and then in community development, it's planning, building, and fire. So, sewage, pretty self-explanatory. Sewage has to be disposed of properly, and we have complaints about the irresponsible disposal of that. Solid waste is one of our real major drivers for cases. We had a lot of solid waste cases, and when people end up complaining to the commissioners, like we had a lot of those last year, it's typically solid waste related, or RVs, usually somewhere. So a lot of issues like that. That seems to be the bulk of the work that our citizens seem to get most concerned about. Food is not much of an issue because all the food facilities are licensed, and if they're not following the rules, they get their license pulled or they get suspended. So we don't usually have many issues with that. The main complaints that we have issues with potentially are unlicensed food service facilities, which we had a few of last year with fruit carts randomly showing up and people making smoothies just popping up places that were not licensed. But
I love the one in the airport in Bremerton. It's not in our county, but I love those food carts.
so, for the most part, we don't really have many issues with food. Like I said, with planning, Josh can speak more to planning, but
Yeah, planning issues mainly are, people cutting in the buffers, shoreline buffers, critical area buffers, sometimes property line disputes where we step in where we can. However, that also turns into a civil matter depending on the property lines and kind of them proving who's right and who's wrong. In regards to building, we recently hired a building code enforcement officer. He's been on for about a month. He comes with some experience, so he's able to hit the ground running. He's been a good addition, or great addition, I should say.
How effective do you think he is?
As of right now, I think we're seeing some movement where before we've been very stagnant. And his sole duty is to, address the backlog along with calls that are coming in. And so far, he's been very effective in regards to gathering the information, making contacts, sending, initial contact letters, and so on to hopefully get these things on track and give them the attention that, number one, they require and deserve, so. Yes.
We haven't had building code enforcement, and
Since I've really been with the county, it's been a position that's come and gone, or if we did have one, it seems like they were absorbed by the building inspector kind of role and handling duties on that end. This individual, Jeremy Norton, he's dedicated to doing planning along with assisting Jamie with planning. So we have a good team now. So they can tackle these things, because a lot of times they're two-parter. They're a building concern and a planning concern, and now both of them can be attacked along with communicating with Ian's staff too, if there is crossover with the sewage and or solid waste. So once again, excited to have him on board and really address this, because I know it's been an issue. It's something that's been put on the back burner and it needs to be addressed. I think that's one of our duties, along with the health and safety of the residents. So.
Yeah, we lost that position at the beginning of the pandemic, so.
Yes.
It's been
Yeah.
a long time since we had that position. Fire, I don't know if you want to talk about fire.
Randy Collins, our fire marshal, he addresses those as they arise in conjunction with the fire districts as well. He has a great relationship with them. Also, fire kind of leans over to building, so I assist him on if anything comes up, and or now him consulting with Jeremy, our building code enforcement. So fire, I don't think, has been a big concern. But building definitely has been a concern, and now we are on track to address it and hopefully maintain that, level of staffing along with attention, so.
And solid waste coordinates with fire a lot, because in a lot of solid waste issues, there's burning, disposal of solid waste. And the fire departments have a lot of issues with that, so we've been partnering with them and able to issue infractions when people are burning solid waste, when the fire department goes out there during a burn ban and has to put out a pile of garbage that's burning. And we're able to issue infractions on that, so that's been a really good partnership so far. So I got some numbers for you from last year. I don't know if you remember how these looked, but the numbers for 2024 are highly suspect to me. We had an issue with our database where they were supposed to cancel a bunch of permits, and then it went database wide and made a bunch of stuff disappear. So I'm not sure about the accuracy of 2024's numbers, so I would just take that with a grain of salt. But these are our code enforcement numbers, and as I mentioned previously, for a healthy code enforcement program, you want to be closing more cases, either the same or more cases than you're receiving, because if you have this caseload that's just constantly building and building and building, that means you're understaffed in your program. You can't keep up with it. And you can see that between 2021 and 2022, we added a solid waste staff member and also a sewage staff member for our code enforcement and environmental health. And we were really able to make some headway with our cases. So I think we're in a pretty healthy place. DCD, their cases, those DCD cases are only reflecting planning. So they don't have a case type, and they didn't have a code enforcement officer for building anyway.
DCD stands for?
Oh, Department of Community Development, I'm sorry. So their cases are a little different because some of them have to stay open for a minimum number of years when they have like land clearing issues. But I would talk to Kellen Planning more if you have questions about that. One thing that I did look up is we have, environmental health has 75 cases that are older than 5 years, and DCD has 58 cases that are older than 5 years. So planning issue wise, I'm not really sure, but as far as code enforcement goes with environmental health, if a case has been open for more than 5 years, that means there's significant challenges there. That's just not where we want to be with timelines for code enforcement. So, first case I have here, this is on Bridger Lane, and this is a case where we have the majority of the property is covered in solid waste. It's 0.2 acres, but that's still a large accumulation of solid waste. And this is one of those problem properties where there's not a responsible person to get them to clean up this property. There's no person we can easily issue infractions to, there's no person we can easily take the hearing examiner, there's no responsive person. And there's a lot of solid waste on the property.
And the barrels are the ones that, when I was there, it was like, what is in the barrels? But
We suspect there's sewage in them, but we don't know for sure.
Yeah.
Just pop it open, take a look. What the heck? Just kidding. I'm just kidding, Commissioner. I didn't
You know what, next time you can do
You
that.
first,
You
yeah.
can do that on the ride along.
No,
You can volunteer to do that on the ride along.
It's easier to volunteer somebody else.
Oh, and this one also had cars that were parked kind of in the right of way also.
Yeah, and there's, a lot of these properties will have these on again, off again issues where they accumulate so much stuff that it starts to spill into the right of way, and then we have to contact the sheriff's department and public works, and there's a huge drain on resources for the sheriff's department. I think they can only get out once every 3 weeks to do these types of, right of way obstruction and hulk vehicle cases, and they just don't have enough staff to do that because it's volunteers, so there's a big drain on resources there when it comes to hulk vehicles in the right of way. And it can't go anywhere without them signing off on it, so.
Okay, and one thing I think that people, I hope understand is that you can't just go out there and clean this up because it's private property. And, plus there's a lot of.
They don't understand.
They don't, I know they don't, but I mean, there are needles, there are things that are.
Hazardous chemicals.
Right,
But we
right.
have a company here. I found that out after one of the others, they contacted me. We actually have a company that does all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somehow we need to work a contract, but we still gotta establish this first, how to deal with them.
Right.
I still think that we have the answers. We just have to use our tools. But it's not ready for me to bring back some of the stuff I talked about before.
Let's do the animal control.
Yeah, but it'll change.
So, the next property is Harstein Island. This is another one with there's, no one to, it's basically vacant property with squatters. There's contentions about who owns the property and who doesn't own the property. And there's no person to go after. There's no one to hold account for it. And there's another one, this is half an acre and it's 95% covered in solid waste. So there's another huge volume of solid waste. Just a major obstacle, and they've been around for a long time. This case is a very long-running case. This is on Snowcrest, and this one is primarily vehicles, and it's approximately 50 vehicles, 80% covered with vehicles. It's 1.5 acres, and this case has been ongoing since 2000. So just another illustration of the difficulty we have with some of these cases. And this one does have an identifiable owner, but even in that case, we're still where we are, after 25 years.
I was hoping, because at one time he was going to sell it, and I was very hopeful, but I guess it couldn't happen.
So it's, a major difficulty moving forward with code enforcement cases. And our typical routes that we have to address code enforcement cases are really, 4 routes that we have that our code allows. So one are administrative fines, and that's where the health officer is basically telling the person, you owe us $200. Now you owe us, $400. Just racking up fines. There's no support structure for that system. And for obvious reasons, we don't really use that at all. It doesn't get us anywhere. Another route is the hearing examiner. The hearing examiner is a quasi-judicial court that can make decisions and can assess fines and fees. That can be successful. The challenges we have with the hearing examiner is it now costs approximately $3,000 on average per case. The hearing examiner, charges per their time, and we have no fund for, paying for hearing examiner cases. So, that is very difficult. And then when we have judgments by a hearing examiner where they say, okay, you did it, but we're gonna cut the fine by, 75%. Don't let me see this, don't do it again. They give them that leeway, and that's so that's $3,000 we spent to get there, to get $125 in fines. And then the problem doesn't get fixed, and we go back, spend another $3,000, and, none of this is including staff time, to do this work either. To take a case to the hearing examiner takes a huge amount of prep, a huge amount of time just getting to that point, getting all the documentation together. So there's a big investment in going to the hearing examiner.
So you have here, we have $180,000 cost annually, is that his total? We contract that out.
No, I'll get to that part.
Okay.
I'll explain that more.
Because one option is we do another contract.
It's not a contract. I'll explain what I'm asking for on that slide. So then we have Class C civil infractions. Those are fines that go through the district court, and we basically write tickets. We give them to the district court serves those, and then the person can pay the fine. In that case, they're admitting guilt. Or, what often happens is we get no response whatsoever, and then they send that to collections, and they're basically admitting guilt because they didn't appeal it. Or they'll appeal it, and we go to court. We've had quite a few that we've been going to court for recently. That is also massively time-consuming. The handful of cases that we've had that have gone to court, we've usually had to go to court 4 to 6 times now. Let's say 4 to 5 times now. We've had to go to court just for one infraction. Things get rescheduled, things get changed, things get canceled, they get to court and they ask for a continuance, or we've had one where they appealed the judgment against them and it's gone to a higher court. So there's a huge amount of time that goes into those as well. And then the other method we have open to us is abatement. So we could do an abatement on the property, but that is the county going into someone's property and doing a cleanup. There's going to be a court order that's necessary for that. But that is one method that is open to us as well. But we don't have an abatement fund. We don't have any money for that. The abatement fund that you're thinking of is the building department's abatement fund.
Yes.
And that is.
I know we have it.
That's separate and different from solid waste cases.
Can that
or
be
things
used for solid waste?
It would, it's set aside for building issues. So there's separate requirements for every time that topic has been brought up with the person that does the finances at DCD. It's been hands off, stop thinking about that, don't talk about it, it has nothing to do with you
Yeah,
guys.
but they're not in charge of that. Let's find out if it is something that is workable that we can look at and make the decision on whether to use that for something else.
I mean, you're the commissioners,
Yes,
you're in the county, so you probably could change a resolution
It
of
just
some
depends on
kind.
how that money was collected or what
That's
it was
correct.
from, I
Right.
believe,
Yeah.
is really
Yeah.
dictates what it can and cannot be
Are
used
there
for.
restrictions?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll look into it, find out. The answer's still gonna be no, but if we don't ask, the answer's for sure no.
But as far as solid waste goes, we don't have any abatement funding for that. So that kind of brings us to a lot of our challenges.
Before you
Oh, sorry.
jump away from that.
Yeah.
You talked about administrative fines, Can that be converted to liens against the property for some of these long-standing ones?
No, not the administrative fines. The judgments from the hearing examiner can be converted into liens. And that's one way we could go. But again, like I said, the costs of going to the hearing examiner are quite high.
Well, it may be the only way we can go. We've got, I know of one particular property where their annual property tax is $30 a year.
Mhm.
It's a forested area.
Yep.
Mhm.
They've got 100 people on that 1.2 acres
Mm-hmm.
with no water, no sewer, no nothing. It's out on Harstein Island.
Mhm.
And every 2.5 years, somebody shells up, enough to pay back the property taxes.
Mhm.
But it's not the owner, because we can't determine who the owner is.
Yeah.
we have to find some way to, I mean, the people who live next door and adjacent, they all live off of wells. They're being poisoned. I think it's our responsibility to clean that up. Now, I don't know how we go about doing that, but somehow, this is, that's our job, is to protect they have a right to their wells not being poisoned.
You and I agree 100% on this. There's something I've been working on in a different area that will have the same impact. We're not ready to talk about it at this point, but I'm telling you, we do have leeways. If we decide we're gonna take the opportunity and create some rules, some laws and stuff, it's just not easy, but I'm definitely open to it. One of the first things that we should be doing is looking at every other county and see what they used to do it. And even though it may be hard, we have to do this. And we should have done it 10, 12 years ago, but let's look at doing it now. It sounds like we have the same kind of visceral thing going on here. Let's look at copy and pasting first and see what we can do. We can create rules and laws, we just don't do it here at the county, but we should. Because it could have a greater impact, and we have better control over how we structure our rules and laws. We have a lot of leeway what we can do as a county to structure it. We can make things more restrictive, just cannot make it less restrictive. It's time to do that. It sounds like I have 3 commissioners that are ready to get really hard on this. So I guess I'm asking you to look at that. Yeah. The other commissioners agree to have them look at those and see what the other counties are doing to, and it may mean taking these people's properties at some point or going for it, but there's stuff out there. It's just time to see them.
So, you're right, but that's not what we need. We do not need more laws, we do not need more rules. We have everything we need
I disagree
to
with
do
you,
this.
just so you know.
Okay, that's fine.
I fully disagree with you, because if we do nothing with what we have, we need to either do something with it, which it doesn't seem to happen no matter what we're doing, or create something that is enforceable. So that's what I'm asking for, and so that's why I'm asking you to look around and see what there is.
It is enforceable. The problem that we have is historically, the commission did not want us taking people's houses away for issues like this. And I don't know where that came from. That's just historically, that's how it's been done. That's how it kind of is in the policies. We would not use the leaning of properties, which is one of our enforcement tools. We would not use that. And so but there are caveats with that. If we lien someone's property that has 2 acres of garbage, and then we do a tax foreclosure on that property, we now have 2 acres of garbage we have to clean up. And those cleanups for other jurisdictions, because I've been talking to them, have been, $250,000 to $3 million for those cleanups. Like huge amounts of money to do those cleanups because of hazardous materials, hazardous waste disposal, and actual remediation they've had to do, where they've had to remove large portions of soil on the property, they've had to do groundwater monitoring. So there are significant financial challenges if we use the tools that we have to take care of some of these issues. So at the previous meeting, the 3 commissioners that were there had said, yes, we would be supportive of doing liens that could possibly result in foreclosure on people's properties. We can do that, but the things that we need are the things that I have listed here today, which are, we currently don't have enough funding to take many cases to the hearing examiner, and the hearing examiner is the first step to an ultimate resolution for the problem on these properties, because we can, through the hearing examiner, enforce or put liens on properties that could then become a foreclosure that would then put the property into the hands of the county, and the county could have an ultimate resolution for the property. That is the pathway that we have available to us, but like I said, the cost of the hearing examiner, we put in $180,000 because that would allow our 5 code enforcement staff to take 1 case per month to the hearing examiner. That's what that would cover. And then the $250,000 is an abatement fund for public health, and that would allow us to do a cleanup on a property. Now, if we decided to do a cleanup, there's 2 ways we could do a cleanup. One is we work with Tim's office and we get a court order to go on a property to do an involuntary abatement on a property. There's lots and lots of issues there and lots of challenges there. Our neighboring jurisdictions don't do that very often because it's extremely difficult to do. basically invade someone's property and take their stuff away. Most of their abatements happen through the foreclosure process where someone says, I realize I'm at this, the point in my life where I'm struggling and I can't handle this myself. I give you permission to come on my property and do the abatement. That's so we actually have funding to handle those issues. Because if we do go to the hearing examiner and we put liens on properties, we're gonna end up with properties in 3 years due to unpaid taxes, because things will rack up. And just knowing the nature of a lot of these issued properties, they're not people with money, they don't have a lot of money. They're not gonna be able to pay those fines, and we will end up with several foreclosure properties. And then the commission is gonna have to be faced with, how do we pay for this property that's got this massive solid waste issue on it? So in my mind, those things come hand in hand. Do we, if we were suddenly taking cases to the hearing examiner, tomorrow, no, we wouldn't need abatement funds right then and there. But over the next couple of years, they're gonna come up where we're gonna have these issue properties, and the county's just gonna end up accumulating solid waste sites, or, needing to clean them up, or that. I don't know what the solution is there. I don't know what the property value is of reselling them as is. I don't know if that's gonna be something that's gonna be a viable option for us. But we do have, in my opinion, we do have the tools to get these properties cleaned up with that type of timeline in mind, where it would be hearing examiner, liens, eventual foreclosure, and then a cleanup.
So, there's different ways to skin a cat.
Mhm.
One of the things to keep in mind is not always does it have to go through the whole process. There's in lieu of fee, so to speak, or it's used all the time right now with banks and everything else. Is they haven't paid their bill, bank goes to them, they agree to do it for less, or they sign off on their rights. There's all kinds of different ways to do that. And if we create a mechanism that puts the pressure over the top of them, they have a choice. They abate it, or they can sign away their rights, and there's different options to go. And as for the hearings examiner, when I first came in, we interviewed them and we put them into motion. They'd already been in place. So I know that we have a say in that. That's not just something that goes to the courts. We're paying them every year as an organization some way. We need to find out what that is, because it hasn't come back to us in 10 years. So we need to find out what that is. They're not just there on their own. They're contracting with us or something in order to do this on our behalf, because I met with them. So we need to look at those options and see, because nothing personal, but what's happening ain't working. So we can keep trying to do the same thing over and over again, or say we have the solution, or we can start to think outside the box and do some things that are harder. Because once a few of them start happening, we figure out how to do it better, and we get a few done. Yes, it isn't good, but you know what? You've seen some of those properties. Those neighbors are dealing with rats and stuff like that. With kids, it's my fault. That's what I look at. When I see those pictures, it's my fault. You know why it's my fault? Because I haven't fixed it. It's my fault. Well, I don't want it to be my fault. I want to fix it, and I'm sorry if I have to be mean to somebody in order to do it, but they're being vicious to the people around them. That's how I view it. So I do know that there are options, and we have a lot of power as a board if we decide to do something with it, and we can be creative. But I'll bet you already there's stuff out there if we could find it, and then be even more creative on top of that. That's where I'm at with it. I didn't mean to cut you off and be mean to you about it, but I'm telling you, it isn't working, so therefore, we can say that we have the tools, but we don't. We need to find a way to get more tools or something, but we can't just keep doing the same thing we're doing.
And the only reason I disagree with you is just that we have tools that we have not been using for various reasons. Like I said, we have not been going the foreclosure route because it was the perspective from the departments that the commission did not want us using that tool.
I don't like it. I've hated it but there is a point where that is the only option in order to protect the people around them. And so I hate the idea of it, but what is the other option? Let them put everybody else at risk. Some of these people have 20, 30 people that are shooting up right next door to them. If we do nothing, isn't it our fault too? So please, I want to do something. And the idea of foreclosure is not always the only way to go. That's what I'm trying to explain to you.
And
we
yes,
can create laws and stuff that allow us to
it's a worst case scenario.
But we can allow them to plea out, basically. We can allow them to sign off on their property, or we can allow them to sign off on the liability for us to be able to go and clean it. They can stay there for another 5 years. There's all kinds of things we can choose to do if we look outside the box to do it. I just think it's time. Matter of fact, I've been on this commission 13, I can't remember a single time where I felt the issue the emotion I just felt from all three commissioners, to where I could look at the person and say, I think today's the day. I think I'm sitting with them now, and I think it's time to make the big change happen. I hope I'm right, guys, but I hope I didn't misread it, but that's sure what it felt like when I was listening to you guys.
Well, I don't know that I agree that we don't have the tools. I tend to agree, we have the tools, we're not using them. A law that's not enforced is not a law. So, you know, the fact that it didn't happen in the past doesn't mean we don't start putting it into action now. So, I don't know how we do it and how we make it happen, but it has to happen. I mean, I walked, my district's pretty bad. And it's, you know, I covered that whole district when I was campaigning. And
Lost 60 pounds.
I heard that.
He did, no, that's what you said one time, right? You actually lost.
70 pounds.
Yeah, 70 pounds.
So, you know, I went through a couple pairs of shoes walking out there, but that's, you know, it's bad. And it's not just my district. All three districts have this problem.
Absolutely.
It's prevalent throughout the state, probably throughout the nation, but
It is.
it's, if we're not enforcing the laws that we've got, we don't have laws, and that's not acceptable. So if we have to make more laws, I'm gonna be pretty hesitant to jump into that, because we have too many laws, as far as I'm concerned, now. But we have a responsibility to protect those citizens who live next to these dumps. Now, I've started a conversation with the EPA to say, hey, can you give us money to do mini Superfund cleanups? Because literally, these are Superfund sites. They're just small. But, you know, so they gave me a positive response when I brought that up. It was, you know, I was in, which committee was it? Too many committees. We were talking about clean water, and I said, hey, the EPA was making a presentation that they're saying, hey, we're looking for things that we need, you know, local people. What kind of things can we fund? It's like, hey, I got one right here. We got a serious problem. And so they're interested in how fast can they move, I don't know. But if that's a funding source, you know, you're talking millions of dollars. Well, that's not a big deal for EPA to write that check to clean up some of these places. So I have no idea how fast they move. I think it's probably slower than we move in the county, and that's.
Well, it takes a while to get to the point where you actually can go in
And do cleanups. Yeah, it's gonna be, there's definitely a major lag time there. But we're not even on the road to that, to being in that place at the moment, so.
So, yeah, I'm fully supportive of us getting on that road. Start using the tools we've got, and then if that doesn't cut it, then we look at adding more tools into the toolkit. But that's further down the road as far as I'm concerned.
But Pat, one of the things that doesn't exist is the ability to do the things that are outside the box, because the rules that exist determine exactly how the path has to go. That's what sucks. You look at even some of the things with somebody pulled over for drugs, they have to go through a certain training. We have the ability as a county to change it to where we can make it more flexible to work with what we need. I don't know that in lieu of exists within the county's ability to allow them to sign off and stuff like that. I don't know if we have that.
They could. They would, we have the tools that we have that allow us to go, like you said, all the way to foreclosure. But we can stop it anywhere in that path to say, if they sign, if we decide to come up with some agreement with them, we could make any agreement we want with them.
Do you have a provision to take on property without the commission?
To take on property?
Yeah, if somebody was to do in lieu of and agree to, I didn't think so. We don't have that.
Well, I don't know what you mean, I'm sorry.
If we're to take on the property because of what it is, and they want to work for you, and they want to give up the rights to the property so they don't have to be chased anymore.
I
We
see
don't
what you're
have that. That's something we would have to create.
But-
We have to be outside the box and create the tools that would make that usable.
Yeah.
Because it can be a serious, easier way to do it It's always easier for them to agree to walk out the door than it is to drag them out the door.
The scenario I was talking about, which is probably different than what you're saying here, is someone could sign an agreement with us to say that they would allow us to come on their property and do an abatement, and then we can set up a payment plan for the reimbursement to the county for that abatement.
And see, that doesn't work because it doesn't have the money. The thing that makes it work is the property, the value of the property itself. We get our money back because of whatever the
Because
property.
we clean it up, foreclose on it, clean it up, and
Yeah,
then sell
and
it.
it may be several years, it may be different ways to look at it, thinking outside the box, but that's how the people get their money back.
Well, we can do the foreclosure, but you're saying this is a method that doesn't involve foreclosure?
Yes.
Okay.
And all the time, as a realtor, I can tell you, foreclosure is a long, hard, unrealistic process. Yes, you can get there, and they do, banks do, but I've also seen banks in that process for 2 years.
It's different for us, though. I mean, you can talk to Tim, but my impression from Tim is that every year we have foreclosure that happens for taxes, and it's not.
No, the foreclosure for taxes is every 3 years when they don't pay it.
Yes.
And then it comes up for taxes, but we don't get that. That's a whole different scenario. What we get on that is what's owed to us only. It could sell, let's say they have $3,000 and so on, anything above that goes to them. If we're gonna invest the money to clean it up and pay $100,000 to do it, we wanna make sure that we get our value, our money back out for the people. We shouldn't have to, so.
So that would be having to place a lien.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so
Or-
usually if we place a lien on the property, we foreclose, we clean it up, we sell it, satisfy the lien back to us,
Yes,
and then,
or, because we do that, we do the tax one without a lien, but basically the lien is created by the tax sale.
correct.
It's a whole different animal. But for us to do it and actually take and work on the property and everything like that, that's a whole other animal. Yes, they can give us the rights, but we don't have any ownership of the property by them allowing us on their property. We don't have any way of recouping the funds, but if they decide they don't want to be pushed, prosecuted, or whatever the term we use to get there, and they want to give up the property, and then we clean it up, we sell the property, we collect the money for it, and that goes back to the people.
Well-
If we want to set up with them an agreement saying anything above what we paid into it, we'll give back to you, we can do that too. We're allowed to.
We do have the ability to lien a property based on an abatement we do. So if they voluntarily allow us to come on the property, they sign whatever paper we give them, we do the abatement, they're still owning the property, we can then lien the property for the cost of the abatement.
Yes.
So I feel like that's still kind of in the same place.
You still have to fight it in court, there's a long process to go through in order to get that property.
But in Mason County, our abatement cost can be liened as property taxes, and then there is no court fight. This is my understanding according to Tim, like I said.
Yeah, then you can sell it after 3 years if they don't pay the tax.
And that's the
Still,
timeline
that's
we
3
have.
years.
But I mean, it is 3 years, but, you know, that's a process that we have currently in place that we're not using that we could use.
And we'll let it go at that point, because I have chemo today, so.
Okay, well, the only thing that I'm looking for from the commissioners is, do you want me to put a proposal in front of you to provide us with what we need for the hearing examiner? Do you want me to also include a proposal for what we want, the $250,000 we want to start an abatement fund? Where would you like me to go, from this point?
I feel like there are some bills before the legislature right now,
There are some that affect
About this.
various things.
right? Right? So I kind of want to hold off until after session, so that we can figure out what they're going to require us to do. And then maybe have another discussion.
Okay,
And I'd like to request that, Mark, that you go out and find out what we have for our relationship with our hearings examiner. It used to be one person, it's currently two. At one point it became husband and wife. So that means they may have capacity to take on more if we were to buy a percentage or contract with a little bit larger in order to handle these cases alone. It's something to think about, but we gotta first find out where we're at, because it has been 10 years since I've seen it come before us.
Okay.
And I don't know why, but maybe now we have a habit of wrapping them up into employees without us knowing. It's not like it didn't just happen and doesn't happen often.
Oh, I don't, yeah. I don't
Yeah,
think
so
our
let's
hearing
find out.
examiner-
Maybe they are now, but they
Yeah.
weren't. They were always contracted.
right now, everything is fee for service, basically. So all the hearing examiner action items that happen are being paid by development, permit fees, like if someone wants to do something that's, their property's not allowed to do, yeah, for variances, that's how that works. And then anything code enforcement related, the hearing examiner just here's the case, and then bills us for the amount of hours they had. That's how we currently get bills. But I can stop there. I'll bring this item up at the end of the ledge session to discuss again with you.
I've also asked the Department of Health to take a look, because they give us all sorts of money to hand sleeping bags out and all this other stuff, but they never give us any money to clean up what's left behind. So I've asked them to take a look to see if there's a way that we can get some money to do that also.
Other jurisdictions have a tax
Yeah.
that they use, so.
I'm going record, I'm not a fan of that already.
Yeah, I'm just saying, you know, they're,
Can't even
I'm just one person though, but
Property tax.
yeah.
that's how other jurisdictions handle it. That's all I've got for you. I think Melissa has.
She does.
What you got?
Yes, we have a presentation, so.
Sorry,
Yeah.
we ran on.
So do you guys, I am willing to reschedule if you need me to do that, in lieu of time. Or I can give you what I have in a quick scenario. It's your choice.
Actually, it would be up to you. As far as I'm concerned, it's up to you. Do you want to come back so that you can spend more time with us to explain?
Well, I want to be able to give you guys fair enough chances to ask
Right,
questions.
right.
But on the same token, I know the two of you know my organization, you have not seen my organization, so I'm not sure what the purpose of, I know you guys are having all the nonprofits that are working with the homeless to come in, so I'm kind of, I will happily do it, but I also know where you guys are behind, and yeah, there you go.
So we're gonna go out with, we're gonna issue an RFP for all of those
Yes.
services that are currently provided by nonprofits within Mason County. And basically it's just kind of a refresh to say, okay, let's see what's out there in terms of resources and availability and.
Well,
So I could do it in about 10 minutes.
Okay, and I also asked that we do have our nonprofits come in, because it not only educates us, but it also lets you guys share your information with the public.
So I can do,
So-
it's totally, I mean, I'm
What time's
willing
your
in 10 minutes
Well,
or.
I can handle either way, but I can tell you, even though I know your organization, I would rather hear the real presentation.
Okay.
But time-wise, we'd be forced to have the shortened one. But I'd rather, because there may be some serious questions that,
I'm
in a
more
good
than
way or
willing
bad
to
way.
reschedule.
Next not doing it?
Yep, if you just, I can,
Okay.
yep, I think so.
And we'll
There's
just
a
make
lot
sure.
that you do, and I'm very much a fan of a lot of it.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm always gonna have issues with some of the stuff, especially on the homeless. And
I understand, so do I. But yeah, I can just come next Monday.
Thank you.
Yeah, in lieu of time, that works for me too. Melissa, do you wanna send me the time link? I will.
We'll work with Mackenzie to make sure public health goes before public works next week.
you know, over the years, we've put a lot of money into that organization for the facility and stuff like that, and we believe that we've done it for the right reason.
Oh, I believe you have too.
Yeah, I believe we have too.
And I will happily share.
I'm interested in how your budget.
Okay,
Yeah.
me too.
Yeah, no, it's a great organization, and I don't want to limit your time,
Thank you.
because you have such a good message and you do such a good job.
Thank you.
That is my personal opinion. Yeah.
Should hang that
I was just gonna say, can I take this? Yes,
You want
I
another
love
one?
this.
You're supposed to hang that on the door.
I'm gonna hang one up, well, we'll put one in Belfair too. So, and just for everyone to know, Belfair Youth Connection and the Shelton one here, we still have vouchers.
Yay.
So if you need to send them to us.
Is the pickup time just from 9 AM to 10 AM?
In Shelton.
Okay,
9 to 10.
okay,
Belfair, you can get it all day long, or from noon to 5, Monday through
Okay.
Thursday.
okay, thank you.
I need about 10 right now, so somehow I just got a message while I was here, so.
I'll work with solid waste folks, see if I can.
Real quick,
Can I
while I
tell
have
them?
these three here, sidebar note, I've talked a little bit with you about the energy code. And I think you and I have also, at the OMB meeting.
I'm still waiting for you to bring me.
And I would like to, based on what we talked, is that a proposal that you believe is appropriate to bring to the masses here to see how we proceed with that? Because I would really like to get a resolution to that. Both just in-house along with, I know we've had a lot of conversations with the building community as well. And it's in relation to the energy code not complying currently with initiative 2066
Right.
for the energy independence, I believe is the way it was labeled, where we the people all voted to not be limited on our energy independence. So no disincentivizing or eliminating the use of natural gas, which the energy code, at least certain aspects of it do. So therefore, there's an argument on both sides where the energy code currently isn't in alignment with state law, and I believe we have a obligation in regards to making sure we uphold that. I do have a few proposals which we discussed. I don't know if I've gotten to detail with the proposals or ideas I have, but if it's appropriate and warranted, I'll kind of draft something up and bring it that way. Hopefully we can get some relief or some, I'm gonna call relief to our building community and our residents.
I want to
So-
share a little, something happened here just a couple weeks ago. You'll enjoy this because just the stuff you talk about. So during it, we were talking about things like as a county conflict and what would it take to actually step forward as a county and try to find those and put them together and bring it forward. His eyes lit up in a good way that it was pretty exciting for me, and he's gonna be bringing stuff to us like this in order to
Should get a copy of the
take out what, we've always been strong.
Yes.
Only what is required by law. Some things are in conflict. We can, as a county, can choose to be part of the conflict.
Agreed, and I
aspect.
don't think there's any ramifications
Yeah.
either, because the
Yeah.
state building code council, at least what we're being told, is just gonna sit on their hands and wait for the new code to be adopted, which is, possibly a year down the line. Meanwhile, there's some individuals, I believe, that would like to choose a path that's currently blocked off or disincentivized, where, some of the examples, Yakima County, I think there's some provisions that our current building community likes to use out of the Washington State Code, and ways to get around things, which I think is very much palatable and appreciated. So maybe finding a way to eliminate some of the stuff, maybe the credits as a whole, but we still have those other ways to get around things to make sure, everybody's kind of getting what they want to a certain extent, and then we can kind of go that approach.
I can't
depending
wait to
on
see all the stuff you come up with.
where we're going
Like I
with.
said, I
and-
saw your eyes, you lit up, you
Yeah,
want to
it's
take
been
it on.
a conversation, and I think it's a good one,
Yeah.
and I think I have an obligation to our building community along with our residents
I agree.
to cover all bases here. And I think this is one way to show that dedication, number one, and take a stand, so,
Yeah.
a good stand
I love it.
personally, so.
I love it, yeah.
We all do. That's it.
Okay, I'll get something generated and then get something on the briefing ASAP.
Okay,
Okay,
that's awesome.
thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you. All right, commissioners, do we have any more discussion? No, are we good?
I don't.
All right,
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Madam Chair, I move we adjourn.
Second.
we're adjourned. All right, thank you.
Come on in, I got a minute.
Can I bring
Yep.
Karen in?
Bring her in.